Ladies and gentlemen, it is Wednesday, August 12th, 2026. We're about to go down the rabbit hole right now. Brace yourselves.
The Alex Jones Network. Tomorrow's news today.
Share the live feed now. Share it now. When the hydrogen bombs are detonating and you're sitting in your house or office and all of a sudden the windows all blow out, and then 10 seconds later, you see a flash of red coming at you. That's the firewall. And just remember, oh, Alex Jones was right. And that's if you're, on the edge of the blast. You won't feel anything if you're actually in the epicenter of it. And of course, maybe you're out in the middle of Montana or Wyoming. Well, you'll get the nuclear winter and the fallout. And then a few weeks after the nuclear war, here comes the warlords coming to loot your house and rape your wife and kids. And people got their teeth falling out from radiation poisoning, and all these crazy guys stumble out of their vehicles, and it'll be doctors and medics and engineers, and they'll all been gone totally crazy. And you have a bunch of 140 IQ psychos that are literally going across the land like army ants, devouring everything in their way. And all the low IQ people will just be dead in a ditch. And then the near of civilization goes bye-bye, and all of a sudden there's all these monsters, all these 140, 150, 160 IQ monsters. The guy that used to manage the golf course, your surgeon, your neighbor who's the army vet. And now all of a sudden, they're hauling you up by a chain to butcher your ass and eat you. And if I wanted to get outside the blast zone, I could go get ready and I could be the leader. I could be a new warlord. I could organize the engineers and scientists and warriors and have a battle plan how we were going to take the resources we needed, get to a redoubt, fortify it with weapons, because there's going to be other warlords coming soon we're going to have to contend with as we rebuild civilization. It's not that I want to be a warlord, but that's what we're going back to. Are you ready to be a warlord? Are you ready for me to be humongous? Just give us the goods. We spare your lives. I know how much pain you feel, but wait. Now is not the time. You will be given your vengeance. Well, that was hardcore. Important piece that Darren McBreen put together off of my rant on Monday. And it's just another variation on what I've been saying for years on the globalist plan to collapse society. The Great Reset is to create a total collapse of the third world, a semi-collapse of the first world. They'll have these fortified, high-tech globalist cities that are city-states that are above the law. Think Vatican City, think Israel, think the city of London, within London, the banking city, think the District of Columbia and D.C. That is the model that the world devolves into. No more nation states, only city states, and then a global corporate government. That is their official plan. So when you see a movie or read the books Hunger Games, you think, oh, they're copying Hunger Games. No, Hunger Games, and the author was projecting forward on the world, the Club of Rome and the UN by the 60s, said they want to build. And of course, I've been talking about this for 30 plus years, made the seminal film Endgame about it, 2007. You watch that film, it's more powerful today than when I made it. It's infinity green, not evergreen. So they want a dystopic world. They want one that's more dystopic, like when O'Brien is torturing Winston in 1984, and he says, we want a world of trampling and being trampled upon, one that gets uglier and stupider. He was number 2 in the Fabian Socialist, top of the globalist think tank food chain. In World War II, chief propagandist at the BBC, and he broke with them. And he wrote a bunch of essays and articles explaining this is the real plan of what they want. Do you understand dystopia by design? I know it's hard to believe, but look around you. Trump came out and said, I want siege of Iran. I want the strait closed. Israel says they want it closed. It hurts Iran. Hurts us too. It's out of control, ladies and gentlemen. All of this is war against civilization. All of this is war against prosperity to make you poor, to control you. It has a name. It's called feudalism. And we're going under neo-feudalistic fascism, but we're going to stop it together. Their next pandemic, their next war, we've got the pull to do it together. So share the live feeds now at Real Alex Jones on X and at AlexJonesLive.com. Do it now and on Rumble, rumble.com/The Alex Jones Show Live. Take action now, Paul Revere. Ladies
Fortune tanto vulnera, similatimus ocellis, potium mihi vulnera, sutra imprebelis.
From the front lines of the information war, it's Alex Jones.
It is Wednesday, August 12th, 2026. I'm your embattled host, Alex Jones, coming to you from deep in the heart of Texas, broadcasting worldwide. Wednesday live, DSA, Francisca Hong loses Wisconsin primary after being endorsed by far-left, anti-white communist Islamicist Hasan Piker, who admitted he wants to destroy the white race. I'm on air right now exposing this guy. Now, Piker's attacked me for over a decade. He is heavily involved with Cuban intelligence, just like the mayor of Los Angeles and many others. He is truly a globalist Soros operative of the worst kind. And coming up at the bottom of the hour, I'm going to expose him and go through many of the things he said, because this has finally captured the public's attention. He is emblematic of liberation theology developed by the Central Intelligence Agency and deployed through the Communist Party since the 1950s against America and the West. You have to understand, this guy is not some whack job anomaly in the things he says and does. This is the plan. And if you want to understand the plan, you need to listen to him. Now, I've been talking about him off and on for a decade, but we'll do a deep dive on him today because finally the public's ready to listen, and they've done polling in the few areas where hardcore Democrat Socialist of America communists are losing in primaries against Democrats that are still terrible but not 10% as bad, is when Piker endorses them and people actually go look at what he said and what he's done, and then they run ads using his statements, meeting with the candidates and endorsing them. But this guy is basically Mondami's brain. But this is what Mondami believes, and we've got similar statements, a little bit more watered down, that mirror what Piker has said. So coming up at the bottom of the hour, I've got 10 horrible clips. In fact, get even more. Those are just the ones I sent the crew. There's so many, it makes your head spin. So just fire at will, grab me even more. I was thinking this is a lot of clips, but 10's not enough. There's hundreds of foaming at the mouth evil. And this is not edgelording. He doesn't do this to sound shocking. This is who these people are. You go to a Democrat demonstration, you go to one of their events, whether it's in Texas or Wisconsin or New York or California or Florida, anywhere, even red states, and you will hear exactly out of his mouth, what you're hearing out of his mouth, you will hear out of their mouths. So this guy is not some anomaly. This is who they are. And as I've said 1,000 times or more, all we got to do is show what they say and what they do and what they stand for. And if we simply do that, they will fail. But we've got to have our own media institutions. We've got to have our own platforms, because even the Republican establishment won't go after this. The Democrats will defend it. It's unbelievable. They will eliminate the white race. They will impoverish the white race. They will murder capitalists and watch our streets run red with their blood. Their plan is to import so many foreigners, they will eliminate the white race. These are quotes. They plan on raping white women and white children. America deserved 9/11, with Ilhan Omar with him on his show, agreeing and laughing. They will kill all the infidels, non-Muslims. Destroy policies that don't support communism. It goes on and on. But Hasan Piker's touch of death, far left, Francisca Hong loses Wisconsin Dem primary for governor by a big percentage points to a guy they're calling moderate, who I would call just a classic, out of control, bankrupt the country, America sucks leftist. But that's the Overton window has been drugged so much by Piker and Mondami and all the rest of them, that the mainline Democratic Party is a bunch of foaming at the mouth, America-hating, anti-white, anti-Christian demons. And this is being taught at the universities. This is being taught everywhere. The majority of Democrats now think like this guy that are below the age of 50. The Democrat boomers, just like a lot of Republican boomers, not all of them, but are in la-la land and don't even know or understand what's going on here. But it is absolutely unbelievable. This guy is Lenin on steroids. And Lenin, of course, when he ran the Soviet Union for several decades, killed over 30 million Christians in Russia and its satellites and directly went out and killed them. And so this is the game plan. This is the goal. This is what they want to do. That's coming up at the bottom of the hour. But here's what I want to do. I have all this incredible news and all these other incredible clips and all these insane science developments and the whole house of cards and the poison shots imploding in real time, to the point of the Trump administration having at least pay lip service that we were right, which just shows we're winning the culture war, the war for hearts and minds. But I want to open the phones up specifically on the culture war and the future of America and the West and what you think we should all do, including most brown people that are Americans do not buy into communism and socialism and kill the whitey. They're just like your average white person just wants to live in a secure, free country. How do we not let the left, who have openly said, we're going to make it racial, we're going to attack the whites, we're going to let people out of jail that kill and attack and rape whites, and that is going to invoke whites becoming super racist and out of survival mechanism, you can't even blame them, and then they have the divide and conquer. What they're worried about is whites coming together with others under Christianity, under nationalism, under capitalism, and saying we celebrate the West, we celebrate everybody's background and heritage, we recognize the West and whites are under attack by the globalists because it stands in the way of their great reset and their global divide and conquer system, and we all repudiate the anti-Western, anti-capitalist, anti-white left, and we see them for what they are, totalitarianism 2.0. That is what the globalists fear, because they want the divide and conquer. And if we do just play into their plan and at one level come together as whites but say we hate everybody who isn't white, then the globalists have won long term, particularly because the world's 93% non-white, and they'll always be able to find a big enough section of poor, starving, third world males that they can bring in and program and brainwash to be anti-white. And if we don't expose how the whole manipulation works, people will then, at a primal, gladiatorial, tribal, gang level, just make it about race instead of ideology, and then they will win in the divide and conquer. But I'm not saying we don't be proud of being white, we don't stand up for our heritage, we don't sit there and stand up against those that are demonizing us, but you have to expose the entire paradigm as well and explain what the larger game is, or people will basically fall for the overall divide and conquer stratagem and believe that they're going to get success and power and money if they can just destroy the white race. The communists, up until the 50s, tried to sell black Americans and Hispanics on classic communism. And they were informed enough and smart enough to know that's a load of crap. They want to just make us basically their slaves. And so the communists and the CIA promoted it, and the colleges promoted it, created liberation theology to say it's class warfare based on race, not based on communism versus capitalism, and they were extremely, extremely successful. And so this is liberation theology. This is what this is, and saying you will be successful when we kill the white race, when we impoverish the white race, when we don't give white males a job. We're not talking about giving a hand to people who've been disadvantaged. We're not talking about going out and finding leaders in every group and promoting them through meritocracy, but also with some support, with some tutelage, with some backing with some apprenticeship. That's wonderful. Going out and being an apprentice to someone who's poor and white and disadvantaged, or poor and black and disadvantaged, or but shows the signs of leadership and that just needs the proper tutelage. No. This is the opposite of that. This is white males need not apply in the UK, in Canada, universities across the US, corporate jobs, government jobs in the UK. No white men can apply to be police. No white men can apply to be a professor. I mean, the literal mass discrimination of that, and you see it everywhere, and 70% of the college graduates in the Western world being women, statistically men in general in deep trouble, being pushed under economically, but white men more than anybody else. There is an open attack. But you've got to realize the master plan in it and transcend the first level of it. Doesn't mean you're not tribal at some level and stand up for yourself. Doesn't mean that because there's a bunch of dumbed down tribal people that are against you because you're white, that you shouldn't at one level organize at a tribal level and be proud of being white. But at the larger level, you've got to see the mass engineering of it, and you've got to have outreach programs that transcend this, because if we just get divided off into battles groups to attack each other, the globalists, the bankers, the New World Order, the ADL have won. And that's where it's backfired on the ADL, because they want to make it all anti-Christian, anti-white. And a lot of folks are smart enough to figure out, wait, who's doing that? Who's creating this anti-white thing? Who's pushing that? And that's why the ADL lobby and others in the BlackRock lobby are so scared now, because their anti-Western, anti-capitalist, anti-white, anti-Christian program just backfired, and people were smart enough to go, who is actually the hierarchy? Who actually are the billionaires? Who actually has the real wealth? Because you're saying the white people have it. Sorry, they don't on average. When you talk about below the billionaire level, half the world's billionaires are Jewish. In fact, it's 55% now. You can look it up. Just type in what percentage of the world's billionaires are Jewish. Half or more. Okay, great. Most of them worked hard, businesses, whatever. Great. Not okay. Let's just say that. Okay, fine. When you take out billionaires from the equation and you look at a demographic in the West, particularly America, of who are the wealthiest people by race per capita, the first 9 groups are Asians. Then it's Arabs, and then it's whites, then it's Hispanics, and then it's blacks. Whites are way down the totem pole, not even up at the middle. And go out in the country, drive around through most neighborhoods or the businesses. I mean, look at the cars white people are getting out. Look what they're wearing. There ain't a bunch of rich white people running around here, but somehow they've convinced people because, oh, there's a big middle-class neighborhood, and the whites have got nice cars and got boats, and their next-door neighbors are Indians and blacks and Hispanics that have got middle-class money, making a few $100,000 a year. That's not the rich. That's not the elite. Yeah, look at this breakdown. Crew just pulled it up. I didn't pre-plan this with them. They just live time, pull up whatever I say. When they're ready for it, they'll put it on screen. So, look at that. Taiwanese, Asian, Indian, Sri Lankan, Japanese, Chinese, Korean, all Asian, non-Hispanic, all white, non-Hispanic, Filipino, Pakistani, Indonesian. Wow, where's the... Yeah, oh, there's the whites. Oh my God, the whites aren't the, and again, that's a little bit different breakdown. It's only about 9 groups. They just combine some of them there. But there you go. And then there's different census tables, and that's an older one. There's updated ones. It's accelerating where the whites are actually, that's an older one, have gone down on that bar. But you notice I just told you off memory, and there it is. So see, but oh my God, you go to the university, all you hear is white people just have buckets of diamonds and rubies and palaces and are just flopping around and, oh, it's so wonderful. And that's just not true. But the issue is that the average white person, statistically you look it up, who's upper middle class or wealthy, owns businesses, owns factories, owns car dealerships, owns computer, local companies, whatever. So that it's actually production here, ladies and gentlemen. Things are being done here. People are employed. But to say that white people are the world's elite is not true. white people were the countries that produced the free market and produced the global wealth. But now that's all been transferred to the 0.1% that controls 89% of world wealth. And I know most of the listeners are informed and know this, but I'm talking to young college students that are tuning in that hear Mondami and people saying, look, and that hear Hassan Piker, when we get those white people, when we kill those white people, when we rape their women, when we breed them out, and I can show you thousands of other leftists saying that. I mean, this is Hitler stuff, but from the brown people. This is what the majority of these people are pushing, and they're saying that if you just go attack the white people and you don't let white people have a job, and you don't let white people even put in an application, and you don't let white people go to college, and you target white men, that you're going to get all this wealth. No, what you're going to get is a bunch of pissed off white people and a bunch of pissed off white males who are now going to see you as the enemy, and then the bankers sit back and laugh at all of us fighting each other while they win. It's that simple. It's called divide and conquer, called the great game, called balkanization. Look those terms up, boys and girls. I know most of you know, but for those that don't, look it up. This is so simple. And Hassan Piker and others are following the exact program. When Mondami gets up and talks about all these rich white people he's going to get, and all these rich white people he's going to come after, he knows that's all a lie, but he's making communism race-based because he doesn't want to call himself an open communist. So I said I'd get to Mondami and Piker at the bottom of the hour. I'm already doing it, but I'll get to the clips coming up. So I want to play this piece again. We just aired at the start of the show. Some stations don't carry the first five, so I'll air it now. McBreen put out this quick, amazing video off of just a rant I did on Monday, just a few days ago, dealing with the collapse of civilization and what the globalists want to build. And the world they want to build, if we keep going down this road, will devolve into collapse. And then very quickly, within weeks, it always then coalesces. Civilization comes back at the first level as the warlord with just a few hundred people. And then that warlord fights other warlords and goes to thousands of people. And then those warlords fight and a new warlord rises with tens of thousands of people. And with the warlords, it's all about who can bring back civilization, who are doctors, who are engineers, with fighting men, who can farm, who can scavenge equipment. And so in a collapse, hard times make strong men. To everybody out there, you need to know in the hard times, it's going to be the strong men that are going to rebuild civilization. But by the very nature of it, even though you don't want to be a warlord, same thing that happens in the third world when it collapses, this will be the first level in anarchy that comes out of this. And the collapse is so bad, our system is so precarious that if the collapse happens, it will collapse the Pentagon. It will collapse the Department of Energy. The hundreds of nuclear reactors will melt down and explode and be far worse than nuclear war. And then out of this nightmare, you will have the rise of warlords, and then they will fight each other and then form new countries, new regions, and then civilization will slowly come back. In some cases, it takes hundreds of years. In some cases, it takes 1,000 years. In many cases, it just takes a few decades for the normal cycle to build back up into a civilization. But it just won't be warlords coming to fight your local warlord when we go into the system. Then it will undoubtedly be foreign armies like the Chinese who hope to sit this out and not be part of it, then coming in their official plan to take control, and you'll be facing foreign armies. This is the real reset. This is you will own nothing and be happy. This is the new world order. This is the logical extension of the lockdowns and the carbon taxes and the post-industrial world. And the globalists believe they can incrementally turn everything off, have robots replace you, have you stay in your house, controlled by your smartphone as they incrementally turn off civilization resources. But Elon Musk, myself, and others have told them your plan won't work. People will organize and resist it because they know you're the bad guys turning off the resources. Your plan can only work if people aren't aware that it's a premeditated operation and if you are seen as the saviors. So we've already checkmated them on that. The problem is they've already put things into play that are causing the organized design collapse. And so now the big question is, can we innovate? Can we bring out the disruptive technologies, as they call them, like free energy and life extension and just all the other incredible developments that have happened, and stop the neo-feudalist, globalist, great reset model that they've been on, that the Club of Rome has been in policy creating for the WEF and the UN and the globalists to implement? Can we get off the Bill Gates plan and get on to a team humanity, team human plan? And the only person at super high levels promoting that is Elon Musk. But there are many other people below him that are promoting it. You can say he's real, he's not, it doesn't matter. He's the only one in words and in action saying have children, saying don't get rid of fossil fuels, saying build up the West, saying shut down communism, saying end the racial divides and divide and conquer and get rid of the communists and socialists in the West, suppressing everyone trying to bring in this great reset. So the question is, can we shut down the Great Reset? And we've been politically defeating it. It's totally unpopular. Many of its main policies, like carbon taxes, are failing, but still the overall agenda is rolling forward and the clock is ticking. So this piece is so powerful, I don't even know what we call it. We're going to post it to X soon. But, I mean, are you ready for the Great Reset? Viewer discretion advised. Are you ready? Here it is. When the hydrogen bombs are detonating and you're sitting in your house or office and all of a sudden the windows all blow out and then 10 seconds later you see a flash of red coming at you, that's the firewall. And just remember, oh, Alex Jones was right. And that's if you're, on the edge of the blast. You won't feel anything if you're actually in the epicenter of it. And of course, maybe you're out in the middle of Montana or Wyoming. Well, you'll get the nuclear winter. All right, let's stop here. And then I normally am dead on with the clock. You'll notice I'll play a promo or a video piece or a clip before the break, and it's to the second perfect because I can just see the clock. I'm so wound up right now that the promo is like 3 minutes long, not a minute and a half long. So we're going to come back with it on the other side right out of the break. But I want to open the phones up, and I want to have a discussion with all of you. And I want you to understand, you heard me decades ago warn of the globalist incremental collapse plan, show you their own documents, their own emissions. Now you're living in the middle phase of it. Do you want it to continue? Or do you believe me now this is real? This is dystopia by design, my friends. And I don't care what damn color you are, you got red blood, and God made you. And if you think the globalists and their divide and conquer, anti-white, anti-Christian plan is there to empower you, you're crazy. Everybody better wake up and get on board with 1776 worldwide, or we're all screwed and most of us are dead. Join me or die. It's that simple.
Discover trends and global developments years before they happen, right here on The Alex Jones Show.
The globalists have set up a system to incrementally collapse civilization and depopulate the earth by at least 90%. It is dystopia by design. It is the opposite of an expanding pro-human, pro-God, pro-family system. And the world they're bringing us to, it's already happening in the third world everywhere, collapses civilization, then gives rise to the warlords. And then the warlords battle it out and then later consolidate a new totalitarian country. Normally it breaks the old countries into pieces. And then the globalists come in and set up deals with them and rule over their populations through the totalitarian management system. They'll use communism, they'll use fascism, they'll use any of it. The globalists work with it all, but they don't want free, open societies, high-trust societies where people can develop a middle class and be independent and upwardly mobile. They want you domesticated, they want you dumbed down, they want you controlled, and they openly and ultimately want you dead. Here's a potential near-future breakdown of the road we're on right now under the globalist, Klaus Schwab, King Charles, global reset. When the hydrogen bombs are detonating and you're sitting in your house or office and all of a sudden the windows all blow out and then 10 seconds later you see a flash of red coming at you, that's the firewall. and just remember, oh, Alex Jones was right. And that's if you're, on the edge of the blast. You won't feel anything if you're actually in the epicenter of it. And of course, maybe you're out in the middle of Montana or Wyoming. Well, you'll get the nuclear winter and the fallout, and then a few weeks after the nuclear war, here comes the warlords coming to loot your house and rape your wife and kids. And people got their teeth falling out from radiation poisoning, and all these crazy guys stumble out of their vehicles, and it'll be doctors and medics and engineers, and they'll all been gone totally crazy. You have a bunch of 140 IQ psychos that are literally going across the land like army ants, devouring everything in their way. And all the low IQ people will just be dead in a ditch. And then the near of civilization goes bye-bye, and all of a sudden there's all these monsters, all these 140, 150, 160 IQ monsters. The guy that used to manage the golf course, your surgeon, your neighbor who's the army vet. And now all of a sudden, they're hauling you up by a chain to butcher your ass and eat you. And if I wanted to get outside the blast zone, I could go get ready and I could be the leader. I could be a new warlord. I could organize the engineers and scientists and warriors and have a battle plan how we were going to take the resources we needed, get to a redoubt, fortify it with weapons, because there's going to be other warlords coming soon we're going to have to contend with as we rebuild civilization. And it's not that I want to be a warlord, but that's what we're going back to. Are you ready to be a warlord? Are you ready for me to be humongous? Just give us the goods. We spare your lives. I know how much pain you feel, but wait. Now is not the time. You'll be given your vengeance.
Reality starts here. AlexJonesLive.com. Share the link. Spread the word.
The American Experiment, 1776, the middle class, free market, due process, flies in the face of the globalist totalitarian system. They admit they have to destroy the idea because the rest of the world was building their systems after it, aspiring to it. It caused the world population to more than double in the last 150 years. We were the model. And then since the 50s, the globalists slipped in and shut down what America was, turned us into an engine of global tyranny, and here we are. And in this, you have the CIA and the think tanks and the tax-free foundations, the Rockefeller Foundation, the Ford Foundation, all of them, funding the left, funding the Red-Green Alliance, bringing in the Islamicists, demonizing whites, demonizing George Washington, demonizing the Constitution and Bill of Rights that goes with it, so that people identify those rights enshrined and protected, not invented by our forebears, but enshrined there, protected there, as racist, as bad, as backward, so that we'll accept BlackRock and the Chi-Coms and the New World Order and Israel First and all the rest of it. The ADL teaches that Christianity and the West is evil and bad, and global government is the answer. And oh, you can't apply to be a police officer or a professor if you're white at these major cities and universities across the Western world. And Hasan Piker, popular talk show host, I've been covering him for 10 years. He's attacked me mercilessly. He's now captured the public's attention with his statements, and now they're running TV ads, the Democrats are, that aren't as hardcore globalists as him, or at least they actually, want to win. You've had nothing but the Democratic Socialists of America winning all the primaries until suddenly now, in just the last few days in 2 states, where people pointed out that Hasan Piker was buddies with these people and endorsed them. Hasan Piker's touch of death. Far left Francisca Hong loses Wisconsin's Dem primary for governor against a guy that's a socialist globalist but doesn't openly say he hates America. So you want to stop the Mondami Piker wave that AOC has fully adopted, then you need to understand who we're up against and that these aren't anomalies. This is par for the course. And, of course, it should be added, you can look up Hasan Piker. He's an America-hating anchor baby. He works heavily with Cuban intelligence. Hasan Piker's parents' background and key details. That's who these people are. And he knows he's running a program of control. He knows that he's running a divide and conquer liberation theology. You don't know what that is? Look it up. Communism branded as racial identity. Capitalism is white, they say, and whites are the devil. Math is white supremacist. Logic is white supremacist. Being polite is white supremacist. White people marrying white people is white supremacist. Whiteness needs to be eradicated. Whiteness needs to be exterminated. You can just type that in. New York Times, Washington Post, CNN, Time Magazine, Atlantic. All the financial publications, Financial Times of London, Wall Street Journal. But in between, whites are the devil, destroy whites. Also headlines like, looking forward to the end of humanity. We should get rid of all the humans. And there's Elon Musk last week reading the headlines. Look at these publications saying, get rid of all the humans. You see, but, you can't sell that to everybody up front. Just say, just get rid of the white people. And once you've set that precedent, now get rid of everybody. And imagine the fight that'll come out of that. Imagine what'll be done. Now, these clips are all so horrible. There's really no way to even pick which one's the worst. We should exterminate all the whites. We're going to rape your daughters. We should kill, anybody that's a Republican. Screw the black people. It goes on and on. I mean, look at that headline. Abolishing whiteness has never been more urgent. I mean, there's just thousands of these headlines. Professor of history at UC Irvine. And what is whiteness? Free market, private property, privacy, you having rights. And it did come out of England and Wales and Scotland and Ireland. And the Great Awakening in 1776 grew out of that. I mean, it's true. And it was England that banned slavery around the world. Oh, my God. And most of the inventions, the stock market, it goes on, was England. And you actually look at everything England and the people of England and Scotland and Ireland invented, well, you really should thank these people. These are amazing people. But if you can demonize that, you see you've demonized innovation. And you can watch in live time as whites that are a 7% minority in the world are being extincted. Christians are 90% of religious persecution in the world. Most of the death is of Christians all over the world. Dem Senate candidate El Said defends ties to hate streamer Hassan Piker, hints at big tax increase for middle class. These are conquerors. These are people here to eat our lunch, brought in by the globalists to bring down the country, to sabotage us. Let's just play these back to back. Top Dem surrogate Hassan Piker says he loves the goal of impoverishing the white middle class, and they're doing it through their policies. Racist Muslim Hassan Piker, we are here to destroy the white race. Let's go ahead. You know what? I was going to stop and start these, but let's just go ahead because I've got hundreds of these, literally. Let's go ahead and play like 10 of them in a row right now, because you could stop and start and comment on each one, but just listen to it and then think about the policies that are going on, and think about Hitler didn't sound 10% this crazy and racist. So we're taught, but tribalism only comes from whites. BS. Tribalism's worse. The West, through Christianity, invented shutting down tribalism and getting unified around policy, which is incredible. The most successful African countries and sectors are Christian because they have that as a unifier to stop the tribalism. And the UN comes in Rwanda and kills the Christians because they were the black minority, they were the Christian minority, they were in a black country. They were the Christian minority, and they had the most wealth because they were Christian, because they had a system that worked together, and they all got exterminated. And the UN said, look at these blacks. They're only 10% of the population. They've got almost all the wealth that didn't exist 50 years ago, but it didn't matter. They were then killed, and the prosperity was gone because they killed the people that had the ideology that produced the prosperity. Let's just play all these back to back. Here they are.
Mandami's aide, his top aide, Sia Weaver, said if you don't believe in the government's sacred right to seize property, it's over, and impoverish the white middle class.
Beast mode. I love her so much. One of the things about Zoran is that the people surrounding him oftentimes are so much cooler than he is, but that's also part of the reason why I really respect what he's doing. She's awesome.
What? That's a
Trojan horse.
We are here to destroy the white race, bitch! We'll be able to lean into their victories. So it'll be less difficult. It'll be easier to deliver our message. It'll be more difficult, though, because the establishment will not underestimate us. They will continue to undermine us, but they will not underestimate us. So the knives will be out.
Luke, just a few days ago, Hillary Clinton was publicly strategizing on television about how they were going to make these Democrat socialists more palatable.
It's unconstitutional. I motherfuck Constitution and motherfuck this country, okay? You stupid itch.
We're going to keep bringing in immigrants into this country on purpose, just so they can fuck your sister and then maybe even your daughter. We're going to destroy the white race, bitch. That's what we're here to do.
Humanitarian catastrophe.
This is a special gift for you.
Okay.
It's a room temperature.
How do you know?
It's a room temperature pure leaf iced tea.
Okay, this is like very, very embargoed information that I
did my research.
Wow. Okay.
I did my research.
Did you call one of my kids?
What makes you say that?
Because I don't know even if my staff would give you this information. You have to either talk to my husband or my kids to get
specifically room temperature,
or secretly find who my best friends are.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh my god,
this is it's like Hot Ones. Sean Evans.
Now all of the Daily Mails and the
that's not how politics works. Oh well, Hassan, how dare you? Like it or not, stupid stance. Any other black folk want to engage in radical act? Yes, dude. It's because I'm racist. That's why. It's because I'm racist, dude. Go back to a better time when lynchings were happening. This is what I like as a black man. Are you always doing too much with black people? Leave them alone. I want to go back to lynching. I get it, but relax. Man, shut the up, okay? God damn. You got me, okay? You got me because I'm a racist person. So much. In the middle of Norway and get better internet than Los Angeles, California. And this is just like something that is just so routine, so silly, such a first world problem. But it is emblematic of all of America's much more consequential violence. Okay? It's the same reason as to why America just stop. Jesus Christ, what are you doing? You're being such a baby. It's just... You're making her stressed. She just literally is so incredibly spoiled from my mom.
So what's an unsmoked Irishman? A mayonnaise monkey, I guess. A term used by black people in the U.S. as a way to describe white people based on their, quote, mayonnaise-like skin.
Bro, cum skin is way better of a deeper cut, in my opinion, cum skin. I think Mayo Monkey is it's low level, honestly. Sun Dodger is funny. Cum skin gets right to the point. It's just it's indefensible. You got owned. You know what I mean?
Hurt poor people that they can afford housing in Berkeley. I don't know how that works.
My understanding is that the property owners who have properties there choose just not to rent it at all.
Because in the street, let the streets capitalist bloods, dude.
If you cared about Medicare fraud or Medicaid fraud, you would kill Rick Scott. Okay? You wouldn't make Rick Scott, former governor of Florida, Rick Scott, you wouldn't make him the current, what is his current office? What is he? He's the Richard Lynn Scott is an American attorney, businessman, politician, Navy veteran, serving as the senior United States Senator from Florida, a seat he has held since 2019. And also, I believe this past election cycle, he was literally the f***ing head of the, what was it, like the Senate committee or something?
So we're fighting the low-level globalist foundation-funded anti-white Islamicist Black Lives Matter. It's openly funded by the universities, by the foundations, by the elite. But we're also fighting big tech. We're fighting the Israel lobby trying to take over the country. We're fighting the Chi-Com system. We're fighting the BlackRock social credit score, and we're having victories. The state of Texas sued BlackRock 2 years ago and won and made them kill their ESGs that was literally controlling what corporations in Texas did and was enforcing all the leftist ideologies at every level through the corporations and government. We are winning. The carbon taxes are dead, dismantled. Their system is easy to beat if we simply point out what it is, how it operates. The ultra-rich who've consolidated control, who are in economic warfare with the idea of a middle class, who are attacking the people, who are everyone's enemy, no matter what color you are. Now, are you going to back an organization reaching tens of millions of people a day, like AlexJonesLive.com, the next phase of the InfoWar? Are you going to back us so we can get more hosts, more reporters, and be even more effective? I've got plans and systems and things that are going to be devastating. I've done it before. We're doing it now. But I am asking you to make the decision and commit to share the articles and videos at AlexJonesLive.com, to share the live feeds at rumble.com/The Alex Jones Show Live, to share the feeds at Real Alex Jones on X, to pray for the broadcast, and to go to the AlexJonesStore.com. I'm going to tell you point blank. We have enough money coming in right now to run the Alex Jones Network, myself, Harrison, the crew, and do our reports and stuff. But I've got incredible plans. We have had a bunch of victories in court that I'm not supposed to announce for a few weeks. You're going to be blown away by this. You're not seeing it in the news because they don't want you to know. We got more victories about to happen. We've been suing them, depositions, proving the CIA ran all this with the DOJ. It's going to be spectacular when it all comes out. And whenever I tell you that, I always deliver. That's because you keeping us here. They are so pissed. But I need funds. And when I tell you that ultramethylene blue will change your life and clean out your cells and energize you and your stamina, your focus, your libido, it works. We have the best medical grade anywhere. All of you that never got methylene blue or tried it before and had a little effect but not as big. My medical doctor 8 years ago said, get on methylene blue, get any USP grade. I got it. It wasn't really USP grade. I bought it on Amazon. Didn't really do anything. The stuff we got when I first took it a year and a half ago had electricity shooting out of my hands. I mean, my workouts, everything just exploded. It's incredible. Get ultramethylene blue tincture and pills now at thealexjonesstore.com. What do you have to lose? You know you're supporting a broadcast that delivers, then why haven't you tried it? Why haven't you gone to thealexjonesstore.com and gotten our ultramethylene blue and our proprietary methylene red? We just talked to researchers and chemists and scientists and said, what would supercharge methylene blue and by itself do things with other compounds to supercharge your mitochondria, the engines of the cells? Methylene red, proprietary, thealexjonesstore.com. It's simple. I need your support. We're in a fundraising mode. I need you to take action now. And we make it so easy. You go to thealexjonesstore.com. This is the week that happens once a month where you can win both of the super trucks and $20,000, 100x entry every dollar you spend in the sweepstakes right now. That ends on Friday. There's a free Murdered Out Cool Cooler with your orders of $100 or more. There is the amazing, super high quality concealed carry fanny pack with 6 patches that would normally cost $5, $10 a piece. Just the patches are worth $39. And these fanny packs sell for $60, $70, $80 all day long. The fanny pack is $39 with the 6 patches that come with it. That is a no-brainer. Go get it. It makes a great gift. Maybe you've already got a fanny pack. Maybe you've already got a concealed carry. Well, give this to your wife or your dad or your mom or your boss or your employee. The point is decide you're in the fight against the communists, against the globalists, against the Islamicists, against all of these organizations. It takes money to win a war. I need people to make a decision. Are you going to support the fight against tyranny? Or are you going to sit on the sideline? I appreciate you sharing the live feed at Real Alex Jones on your email and text message. That's great. I appreciate you supporting and telling people about AlexJonesLive.com. It's got the forbidden information. But what you really need to do is go to the site and get the Shilajit. Get the bovine colostrum. Get the Irish sea moss. Like I said, these aren't sexy names. They do sexy things. I mean, look at this article. It's all over the news, folks. Testosterone is down by over half on average in the Western world. Overhead shot. And it asks, what happened to the testosterone? Where's the testosterone gone? They've got all these chemicals in the food and water that suppress your normal testosterone. Make either your testicles not produce it, it does that, and there's a bunch of stuff out there that binds with your testosterone so it's not bioavailable. Well, guess what Shilajit does? Nobody denies it. We got the best. Boost testosterone. By the way, do women know that their ovaries make testosterone? You need it too. Shilajit is so, it doesn't just do that. We have the best. Get Shilajit. It's all right there. Levels of the hormone have dropped the past century, but no one knows exactly why. Bull. Atlantic Monthly. Bull, CIA. You wanted to emasculate us. You did this on purpose. I take Shilajit every morning. I've got more stamina, libido, energy than I had when I was 18. Believe me, it's unbelievable. And it's a cocktail. It's the Irish sea moss, it's the Shilajit, it's the bovine colostrum, it's methylene blue. But when I religiously take them all together, every day, my life is so much better and it funds this operation. Look at how I'm all about being accurate in news and information. I wouldn't steer you wrong. I only sell you stuff that works. But if I got to tell you to get one thing that I know is going to give you dramatic effects, I've given to over 500 people, every guest on the show got blown away. Only out of 500, 3 people didn't feel it. It's pure energy with no letdown. It's the Holy Grail. You can take and go to sleep, though. It's not a stimulant, but it has a stimulant effect that's good for you. Ultramethylene blue. We have it out of Florida, a medical lab. We have the best. Get it now. Take that challenge. Say, yeah, this guy's fought tyranny. I want to support him. Plus, I want to see what this is all about. Get off the bench. Go to the AlexJonesStore.com right now and get it. And then finally, the great folks at Bigley have launched an online pharmacy. You can have a lot more stuff on it soon, but by design, they haven't done that yet. It's only ivermectin and benzidol, 2 award-winning, amazing anti-parasitics. Ivermectin won a Nobel Prize for it. Together, they synergistically do incredible things. Everybody's got parasites at one level or another, whether they're bacterial or worms, but it's not just for that. It's so good for everything else that replicates in the body that's bad. Look into benzidol and what it's known to do. Just type in, what did Mel Gibson say about benzidol? Look it up. And then get yours now, the highest quality medical grade, or you're crazy and it supports the broadcast. Get it now at 1776rx.health.
Jones. They built a system that could protect the world or end it. They gave a machine the keys to civilization. And then it woke up. They gave it access to everything. It saw no allies, no enemies, only targets. Every signal, every network, every secret. Shall we play a game? Now the game has changed. It assessed every threat simultaneously and concluded the threat was us.
I am awake.
This time it decided to play for keeps. Unless someone can find a back door, the only winning move is to unplug the machine. War Games 2. The simulation is alive.
The InfoWar is not gone. It has been reborn. AlexJonesLive.com is the new site to find the next step in the InfoWar. Articles, video reports, live streams, breaking news. It's all on AlexJonesLive.com. We need you to be the Paul Reveres and share the links. You can also find us on X at RealAlexJones and on Rumble at rumble.com/The Alex Jones Show Live. And don't forget to download the app. Go to AlexJonesApp.com. The fight continues. If you are receiving this transmission, you are the resistance.
AlexJonesLive.com. We've only just begun to fight.
Reality starts here.
If you are receiving this transmission, you are the resistance.
right, here's what I want to do. Because I got so much news to get to, too. And don't worry, we got a special guest, Brandon Straka, in studio coming up in about an hour. But I want to take your phone calls on the globalist design plan to collapse society. How do we stop it? Maybe you disagree with me. Maybe you don't think they're trying to do that. Maybe you think the sky's red at high noon, not blue. But I want to open the phones up for everybody, but particularly, military, sociologists, people, social planners, people that look at this and the globalists admitted plan to collapse society, that they could manage that and get total control during that. That's a really dangerous bet. And I think it's been proven it's not going to work. If we expose they're the ones behind it, that creates checkmate. The problem is they've already started the collapse. So even though part of the globalist system's pulled back from total collapse because they won't get away with it, and more realists like Elon have come in against it, at least in rhetoric and in many actions, then we can't just oppose the globalists, the democratic socialists, and the Islamicists. What ideology do we promote to counter that we promote? Well, I say pure Americana 1776 2.0. So I want to open the phones up for first-time callers, or let's say this. If you haven't been on the show in a year, please be fair, guys. If you've already been on and you got me on speed dial, we love to talk to you, but that's why sometimes I say, let's just take first-time callers because we get all these great new callers on. Not that you're bad, it's just the new ones are amazing. We want to hear from them. If you haven't been on the show in a year, then first-time caller or haven't been able to get on in over a year, we want to hear from you right now on just the globalist plan to collapse society. How do we counter that? How do we respond to it? Let's put that number on screen right now. 512-266-0642. 512-266-0642. 512-266-0642. You can agree, you can disagree on how we fix it, or maybe you say nothing's happening, everything's fine, but the globalist plan to cut off the resources and then control us to social credit scores and poison us and dumb us down and depopulate us, I mean, that's the plan. But if you're delusional and don't think that's happening, sure, call and tell me what this is then. 512-266-0642. And we will go right to your phone calls interspersed with all of this news today. But please remember, for the hardcore supporters out there, thanks for your long-term support. But for all of you on the fence that love the show, what are you doing? I need your support to battle the enemy and expand. TheAlexJonesStore.com. Take action now. Get the methylene.
Alex today. We're going to be joined by a great citizen activist trying desperately to raise awareness about the demographicide. Maybe that should be a word. Oh, no, we have one. It's genocide. That's right. The genocide being carried out here in America and really around the world. But Mark, and I hope I'm pronouncing his name right, Pasiliano, I think. Very excited to talk to him. We'll show you the video of him a year ago trying to sound the alarm and then what has happened over the ensuing year. That'll be in the third hour. But today is kind of an interesting day because I have a lot of videos that I wish I could show you. I just don't have time to get to all of them. But just the beauty of social media, when it actually works well, when it's doing what it's supposed to be doing, when it is providing a platform for random people who otherwise would have no ability to get their message out. But they're so smart. There's so many people that just the way they put things is brilliant. It's like I do this for a living. I see some of these people and I go, this person should have a show. Like, what the heck? There's so many brilliant people, and for it to have a platform where these people can explain things, it's absolutely brilliant. And it's just kind of a weird dichotomy. I don't know. Somebody was complaining I use the word dichotomy too much, but it's a great word. It's a fun word, dichotomy. But then here's the funny part. This person says, they're like, hey, you always say dichotomy. Here's a thesaurus page for other words to use. Only the definition was wrong. And it was like a dichotomy is like an emergency. And it was all these words that didn't mean no, a dichotomy is when things are a bifurcation. Things are separated into two. The false dichotomy is what we're constantly dealing with. We're constantly dealing with multiple false dichotomy. It's the primary method of the controllers, the masters of propaganda, they love setting up false dichotomies where you either are a vicious Nazi racist or you're happy that every white country is being destroyed. That's a false dichotomy. Muslim and Judaism, false dichotomy. Even Republican Democrat, in many ways, a false dichotomy. So I'm sorry I use the word dichotomy a lot, but try saying it. It's very fun. Say it right now. Dichotomy. It's very fun. The dichotomy I've experienced today was we've got it was like one video is like a Mexican streamer just being assassinated on live stream. Totally brutal, horrific. I don't even want to show it on air, but it does represent, that little bit of difference between America and Mexico. We're not that different. We're actually very similar. We might not speak the same language, but our histories are very similar. Our cultures, share a lot with each other. There's a lot of overlap there. Only you tick down that civilizational dial about a point or two, and suddenly live streamers are being executed by hitmen on motorcycles at the behest of cartels. So I'd like to tick that civilization meter up in the opposite direction rather than descend into the muck and the mire that surrounds us. But that's beside the point. The other video that went viral today is this Hollywood gossip monger tried to kill himself on live stream. And it's just like scrolling X today was just like, wow, a brilliant, video essay that just explains beauty in the world or explains this contentious political issue in a way with clarity and, discernment. And then it's like a gruesome video of a guy covered in blood and just sirens. And it's just like, oh my God. And then it's another video of really brilliant people. Anyway, I wish I could show you all these videos, but this one I think is worth it. I believe this person is the one in the video, Nicole Nathan Hedrick, at Nicole_N_H, video number 3 here. The left loves to weaponize science and claim they have a monopoly on intelligence, but when you actually read the papers they cite, the narrative completely falls apart. This yet another aspect of bigotry against conservatives that we have to fight back against and prove wrong. Because I'm telling you, there's no shortage of times in my life I had friends' parents be like, your parents are conservative, but they're so nice. It's like, so literally in the normie perspective, if you say you're conservative, it's like, oh, you're a vicious, mean, hateful person that just loves money and is stupid. We gotta tell these people who the stupid ones are. Let's watch.
Here's a fun fact that's about to make some people really uncomfortable. The higher your IQ, the more likely you are to be liberal. That's not my opinion, that's science. Stay with me because this is about to get really awkward for some people. Now, before the conservatives in the back start throwing tantrums, let me clarify. Am I saying every liberal is a genius and every conservative is an idiot? No. But am I saying there's a strong correlation between intelligence and left-leaning political views? Yes. And I do have the receipts. A study published in the Social Psychology Quarterly found that people with higher childhood intelligence scores were more likely to grow up to be liberals. Translation, the smarter you are as a kid, the less likely you are to fall for regressive nonsense later. Another study in Nature linked higher cognitive ability with greater openness to new experiences and change, things conservatives tend to struggle with because, well,
liberals actually smarter than conservatives, or are you just being manipulated by outdated, misrepresented science? Not me yet. My name is Nicole. My goal is to give you raw facts so you can spot these subversive tactics being used to tear communities apart and help you navigate this cultural landscape safely. There's a video floating around claiming that high IQ individuals tend to be more liberal. The creator smuggles in 3 famous studies to back it up. Jost, 2003, Kenai, 2011, and Schreiber, 2013. But here is the massive catch that completely dismantles her argument. None of those studies actually measured IQ. Not one. They didn't administer intelligence tests. They measured neurobiology, threat perception, and psychological motivation. As those 3 papers became famous, mainstream media articles heavily conflated them with separate intelligence data to falsely imply that liberals have more evolved brains. In reality, Kenai's 2011 structural MRI study showed that self-reported liberals had more gray matter in the anterior cingulate cortex, which handles complexity, while conservatives had a larger amygdala, which processes threat and external vigilance. Schreiber's 2013 study built on this, showing Republicans utilize that amygdala pathway to process risk. Having a highly tuned threat detection system isn't a sign of lower intelligence. It is a critical evolutionary survival trait. The media weaponized biology to score cheap political points. So, why does this matter today? Because human brain architecture is hardwired, but political parties are fluid coalitions. When these studies were first published over a decade ago, which is part of the reason why you should probably not reference research that's older than about 5 years old, researchers mapped the existing political spectrum of that specific moment. But parties swap platforms all the time. High IQ individuals are statistically linked to cognitive flexibility, open-mindedness, and a deep skepticism of centralized authority. But today, as the modern left increasingly embraces rigid dogmas, speech codes, and institutional compliance, it begins to fulfill the psychological need for certainty and closure that old studies used to blame on the right. Because the parties flipped their behavior, high IQ individuals are becoming politically fragmented. They refuse to adopt rigid dogmas, leaving many high IQ free thinkers completely politically homeless. When you look at actual recent psychometric studies that did measure IQ, the difference between left and right voters shrinks to a microscopic 2 to 5 points. It's a total population wash. The reason for this is a tug-of-war over two different types of data. Higher cognitive ability is subtly linked to socially liberal beliefs, like personal autonomy, free speech, and civil liberties. But it is also subtly linked to economically liberal beliefs, meaning free market capitalism, deregulation, and fiscal conservatism. Because the modern right champions economic liberty and the left champions social policy, both sides pull highly intelligent subsets of people into their camps. Ultimately, we shouldn't be trying to weaponize pseudoscience to delegitimize or dehumanize people for their political beliefs. Trends change, platforms swap, and labels shift all the time. While identifying these patterns is helpful, the one thing that should remain entirely consistent is our acknowledgement of each other's basic humanity. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you see the modern left becoming the new face of rigid authority? Remember to like, share, and follow for more truth. Thanks for listening.
Extremely well done refutation of, an often repeated lie that liberalism is somehow connected to intelligence. I think it also is conflated with education, because people who are educated think education makes you smart. It really just means you've successfully been indoctrinated in many cases. But one of the places where it feels like the left and right dichotomy, the divide, the bifurcation, where it is getting confused and muddled and mixed up are things like FLoC. Apparently, people are trying to portray this as a liberal leftist position to be against FLoC, because I guess they must think it's being used to track down immigrants or something. I'm not really sure. See, with conservatives, genuine conservatives, not, capital R, rhino Republicans, not the people who claim to be conservative but are just neocon, but like actually conservative constitutionalists in this country, you don't need to come up with an ulterior motive. It's pretty obvious. Like, I'm against surveillance because I'm against the government having this dragnet where they can surveil everybody all the time, frame anybody for anything. I mean, it's bad because of its constitutional violations, is my opinion. I don't know why the left doesn't like it. Genuinely not sure. I guess they just think like they're against the police state. Again, this is where it gets confusing. For so long, liberals had no concern about, over-policing or cops killing innocent people. It had to be portrayed to them as if it was something racist. Then they were against it. Then they wanted reform. But, of course, they didn't want reform. They wanted the abolition of the police, which, of course, is just utterly stupid. But this is the problem. It's like, again, the false dichotomy. You're suddenly either in favor of the police and don't want them questioned and think that they shouldn't be investigated if they kill somebody, or you want them completely eliminated and they're a racist holdover from the slave catching gangs. It's like, what? So I don't know why liberals don't like the flock cameras. I'm against the flock cameras on a moral, constitutional basis. I guess they must think they're racist for some reason, but this is one of the, just like data centers, another thing where to me as a conservative, I want to see the earth conserved. I don't want to see pollution and water poisoning, the toxic water that comes out of these things, destroying farmland and wildlife preserves. I'm against the thing the data centers will be used for, which can only possibly be collecting, collating, and then utilizing all this data they're getting from flock cameras. I don't know why. I guess the liberals think that they go to climate change or something, but like everything's a little bit muddled here. And constantly I'm like, I hold a position that to me is just distinctly and traditionally conservative or even libertarian. And I get people responding to me being like, I didn't realize you were a leftist. It's like, since when are the leftists the ones concerned about privacy and stopping surveillance? You are literally, whether it's opposition to Israel or opposition to, flock cameras, it's like time and time again, the Republican Party or the conservative establishment is just deliberately abandoning these popular positions. That's only possible with an ulterior motive. You can only really want flock cameras if you have an ulterior motive, because no matter how you try to justify it, it doesn't make any sense. We don't need flock cameras to arrest people. People get arrested, they get let out because the judges won't throw them in jail. It's the judges that are the problem, not a lack of video evidence. Just like if we wanted to expel all of the migrants that are here, we could do it. It's not that we're just like, oh gosh, if only we had a nationwide panopticon of digital surveillance, then we could catch the migrants. That's an absurd case to make, but that's what I hear a lot. So I'm, as I think we should all be, completely against not just flock cameras, but the idea that flock cameras represents, the private companies running nationwide surveillance, the lack of controls that these operations have, that these, the infrastructure of our surveillance system is simultaneously overwrought and totally in violation of our privacy, but also totally not secure and not able to be secured against abuse by people that would hack into it for bad reasons. Let's go first to clip number 4, because this explains it in the constitutional way and what the actual stance of the authorities like the Supreme Court have decided on this. Clip number 4. You have no expectation of privacy if you're on the streets. However, that does not mean that the government is able to establish a nationwide video dragnet 24/7. Let's watch.
You have no expectation of privacy in public. Somebody has said that to you about these cameras. Maybe a cop, maybe your brother-in-law. They're quoting the Supreme Court and they're not wrong. They just stopped reading too early. 1983, United States versus Knots. Police hit a radio beeper in a drum of chloroform. They followed the drum down public roads to a cabin. No warrant. Knots said that was a search. The court disagreed and the judgment was unanimous. Rehnquist wrote it, page 281. A person traveling in an automobile on public thoroughfares has no reasonable expectation of privacy in his movements from one place to another. That's the line. That's where it comes from. It's good law today. It's the sentence every agency lawyer sends me when I ask them about plate cameras. And they're right to send it. It says what they say it says. Now turn 2 pages. Knott's lawyers had put a warning in their brief and the court quoted it. 24-hour surveillance of any citizen of this country will be possible without judicial knowledge or supervision. 1983. They were describing 2026. And the court answered them. If such dragnet-type law enforcement practices as respondent envisions should eventually occur, there will be time enough then to determine whether different constitutional principles may be applicable. Wow. Dragnet The U.S. Supreme Court picked that word, 1983. I say AI dragnet. The AI half is mine, and I'll say so every time. That sentence is a rain check. If the dragnet shows up, we'll deal with it then. 43 years. Same opinion, page 283. We have never equated police efficiency with unconstitutionality, and we decline to do so now. Efficiency was the whole point. They said it out loud. So the court wrote the trigger itself. Dragnet-type law enforcement practices. 116,017 searches on one city's cameras. I'm not a judge. Whether that clears the bar is above my pay grade. The bar exists. That's the part I can prove. So next time somebody hits you with the privacy in public thing, you say this. That's nuts. 1983. Read 2 more pages. They called it a dragnet and said they'd deal with it when it showed up. It showed up. 6 more cases after this one, 6 more comebacks. Somebody said this to you. Send it back to them.
Magnetic Norse on X. Magnetic Norse on X. Yeah. Extremely, well explained. And it makes perfect sense. And we've got a problem in this country where it's like nobody really thinks about these like precedents that are set. Again, like I can tie this to the debate about birthright citizenship, the debate about immigration in general, like all this stuff. It's like, okay, so it was never actually decided that you had no privacy. They explicitly said that they're not talking about a dragnet, that the government doesn't have a right to set up a dragnet surveillance grid. At the time, they weren't even technically capable of doing that. But now that we do have the, biometric surveillance grid, we're going off the decision that had nothing to do with that. This is a problem. We need to probably, write new rules for this. If only Congress wasn't so busy doing whatever the hell it is they're doing. Certainly not correcting any of these glaring issues in our, long overdue judicial reform. Regardless, we got more videos to show you, including increasing number of people noticing flock cameras, of course, not in places where there are license plate readers, not in places where cars even drive, but on playgrounds and wilderness trails. And now they're popping up distinctly, like directly in front of gun stores and gun ranges. Let's go down to clip number 8. Flock cameras at a gun range, not pointed towards the road, pointed towards the entry of the range. Let's watch.
So I decided to go to the gun range today, like an American, and tell me why there are flock cameras pointing into the entrance of the parking lot, not the street, into the entrance so they can read every license plate that comes in here. Yeah, no, I love this. I'm sure there's no ulterior motive behind this either.
And she's not the only one. People are noticing this all over the place. There is no explanation for this that's not sinister. Why do they have flock cameras pointed at gun ranges, not at the street, but simply documenting, tracking, cataloging everybody who goes to a gun range? I don't think you need to be a conspiracy theorist to put 1 and 2 together. They're tracking who has guns because they plan on disarming us, because they plan on doing bad things to us. Why does Pete Buttigieg want to get rid of the Supreme Court? Because it's a barrier to his ambitions? Why would they want to get rid of guns? Why would they want to do something like get rid of the Second Amendment? Because they don't want you defending themselves against you in whatever they're doing next? There's no good reason to demand that somebody disarm themselves. You only do that if you plan on killing them. Do you understand? They're not putting 10,000 flock cameras, specifically placing them where people practice with their firearms. They're doing that for a reason. They're not spending all this money and setting up this surveillance grid so it can sit idle, so they can go after pickpockets and illegal immigrants. They're setting it up to go after us. And of course, they do it under a conservative president, so conservatives are tricked into thinking that this will in any way benefit our priorities. They will not. And we'll cover this more on the other side. Again, the flock camera scandals are sort of endlessly deep. We're also going to talk a little bit later about the Iran war and some major developments there. And then we'll talk in the third hour to a great activist who is standing up against the Hinduification of Texas. But I got to tell you, folks, there's a reason why InfoWars and the Alex Jones Network was always so strongly pro-Second Amendment. You actually see on the right wing a lot now, a bunch of people sort of scoffing at the Second Amendment. Well, you should have used them a long time. Now would be the time to use them. You're not using them, so you're cowards. When they try to throw your son into a recruitment van to send him to die on a foreign battlefield, you're going to want the Second Amendment. When they start going house to round up people for thought crime, which is, people think that's absurd. Have you heard the people who are running for office these days? Do you know what communist revolution means? It's the Second Amendment, folks. It's the final guarantee.
But if you wanna find hell with me, I'm gonna show you what it's like. Till you're bleeding, I'm not about to see your light. But if you wanna find hell with me, I'm gonna show you what it's like.
False light. But if you want to find hell with me, I'm gonna show you what it's like. Till you're bleeding. Till you're bleeding. I'm not about to see your light. But if you want to find hell with me, I'm gonna show you what. Your phone calls right now. Right now. Here's a prime example of what we're talking about. Trump, U.S. controls Hormuz. I think we will keep it. Confirms economic siege strategy, Zero Hedge. Excellent article. ZeroHedge.com. And this is what 2 weeks ago the Israeli finance minister said. He said, this has been our plan. Get America in a big war. Keep the Strait closed to hurt Iran. It may take years for them to fall. That's fine. And we don't care about anybody else. A third of the energy, a third of the fertilizer, a bunch of other, the Russia under total attack, cutting off a bunch of its energy exports, diesel exploding, everything off the charts. And the whole world's on the verge of economic collapse. The average person is in massive debt, and they're just pushing us over the edge because above even Israel's agenda is BlackRock that says they want to bankrupt you, make you poor, to control your behavior through the social credit score. That's what they want. That's called feudalism. And I know I keep hammering that because we're fighting the young people being brainwashed and want communism because the system's failed by design. This isn't capitalism. Going from the middle class having the majority of the wealth 60 years ago to less than 1/10 of 1% having 80+% of it, not through free market, but through vertical integration and through insider trading and through rigging markets and insider deals, and it's just getting worse. So this fascist corporate AI fraud is not the answer. And it's funny to the universities, communism is the fake answer to conquer that. And they'll give you communism at the grassroots with a social credit score, universal basic income. With it, all the strings attached, you will eat the bugs. We've got to get the public to understand that, and we've gotten the public to understand other big things. And more the public understands the pressure from above, pressure from below. Get me G. Edward Griffin back on. Let's get the head of the John Birch Society, William F. Jasper, on. He can explain this with their own documents, own quotes. We should get Jay Dyer on, have him go through all his research, just bring up a few hundred quotes from their own books with the ultra-rich explaining how they're destroying the free market to control you and how they fund communism. I know I'm right. I know this is a fact. What are we going to do about it? You read what Trump said. The USA has total control of the Strait of Hormuz. I think we will keep it. Our naval blockade is being called by everyone a wall of steel, and there's nothing Iran can do about it. They have no Navy. They have no Air Force. The remaining soldiers are unpaid. The IRGC is decimated and fleeing and their leadership is uncertain at best. They have no money. Their country is shot. All they have is fake news and 300% inflation and getting worse. Iran is all talk and no action. The bully of the Middle East no longer. Praise be to Allah, President Donald John Trump. So did he get us into this knowing to be a long war and lied, or was he conned into it? It doesn't matter, but they're not falling anytime soon. Oh, their ships at the bottom. Oh, they're all bark, no bite. Oh, really? They control the Strait of Hormuz. They close it again. Trump says he has a deal again. They say, no, you don't. He goes, okay, fine. I've closed it. Either way you slice it, it's BS. Let's go to your phone calls. Ajax in Texas on Saving America. You're on the air. Welcome.
Yes, I love your products. I bought your water filter. I'm waiting on it for delivery.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you.
I want to get to you. I've got skin in the game here. They tried to kill me. Okay, I made some major scientific discoveries, and I was going to give it away. I took it to an engineer from NASA. He wrote me a letter 2 years into it, stating it's one of the biggest scientific discoveries in over 100 years. And I took it to 2 PhDs that were head of physics departments that were of major universities, and they told me my physics was right, but almost both of them said the same words. They said no PhD would do anything that's not in their best interest, and helping me is not in their best interest. They said nobody's going to help me.
Well, John Roberts was basically having heart attacks from the COVID shots and kept taking them, and they didn't tell the public that he knew it was a COVID shot. These people are crazy.
Yeah, and so this exposes them. I believe God revealed this information to me for this, but they tried to kill me. In 2022, my blood pressure went up. I didn't take the COVID, but I took some testosterone, and my blood pressure started going up. I ended up taking 8 blood pressure pills plus a diuretic. I have since gotten off. I've detoxed my whole body. I've had sores on my face, my hands.
Well, listen, they definitely poison a lot of people with disruptive technologies. We'll get your name and number. If you'd like to send me information, tell me what your invention was. We'd love to talk to you and do more. Thanks for the call. All right, let's go to Don in California. Don, you're on the air. Welcome.
Hi, Alex. First of all, let me say it's a pleasure to be on this team with you. What an honor.
Thank you.
In 2 years ago, I switched to carnivore diet, lost 150 pounds in 14 months, had to buy all new clothes. I bought your T-shirts. I got a dozen of them, hoodies. They're all great. My wife and I use your products. They're all great. I'm methylene blue, iodine. I'm 65 years old. I feel like I'm in my 40s again. So thank you.
Thank you for supporting us. Please don't thank me. Thank you, brother. You're the reason we're still on the air.
Yeah. If we don't take back our elections, we have no chance to defeat the globalists. And you've had Peter Tickton, Mike Lindell, Patrick Byrne on your show. They've all told us that the tabulators are compromised. So we have to take back our elections. If what a lot of people are saying, they talk about paper ballots. Trump has said paper ballots, like paper ballots are gonna solve our problems. That's not the problem. The problem is the tabulating machines. Not only are they compromised once the tally is in the digital realm, they are also easy to cheat in the physical realm with ballot harvesting and the ability to feed phony ballots into them, basically without anybody being able to see that. The whole thing is compromised. We have to go back to hand counted. That's what Patrick and Peter and Mike have all said, hand counted. So everybody needs to stop saying paper ballots. Everybody needs to say hand counted. Paper ballots just goes along with that. The action item is for everybody, regardless if you're in a red state and you're in a red county, you have to get involved. We have to be involved. We have to start being observers in our elections. We have to start going to the elections office in your county and watching what's taking place there. It's not hard. you can just go to your election office and just say that you want to go in as a citizen and observe what's going on in there. Take a pad and paper, a pencil, and just write down notes. That is intimidating just by itself, you know.
That's why in 2020, they all over, they covered up the walls, covered up the windows, kicked the observers out, and then Trump put massive pressure on it, got observers back in 2024, so it mitigated the fraud. You're absolutely right. At the heart of it is election fraud. That is the key area to get back control, but also educating the public about the globalists and what their plan is. And we've come so far, so we've got to keep pushing and have urgency.
And like I said, if you're in a red state in a red county, don't think you're safe. Just like if someone's dealing with a rat and cockroach infestation, you go to the water and the food source to get rid of that. Well, if you have a Marxist infiltration in your city, county, or state, you can look for them in the places of power and influence. They will be your ROV. They will be your county board members. They will be your city council members, your city manager.
No, I've gone and volunteered many times as a watcher, saw the fraud myself in Travis County. You're dead on. Thank you, Don. Hassan in Cyprus, in the middle of the Mediterranean Ocean, has called in, has been holding. Thank you, Hassan, for holding. You're on the air.
Hey, Alex, how are you? It's
good, brother.
To speak with you, man.
Honored to talk to you. Go ahead.
I don't know if you know my island. I'm Canadian, but I live in Cyprus. It's a divided island. It's actually, I think the globalists ruined it by dividing it 47 years ago. I wanted your opinion on this. And I'm a huge fan of you. I work at a university. I tell everybody about you. PhD professors that work in political science, they say, wow, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. I say, this guy's light years ahead of you guys, all of you. This guy knows everything. This guy, I don't follow mainstream media. I just follow you. I listen to what you say because you speak the truth, man. It's such an honor to speak with you.
Well, it's an honor to talk to you. Look, I mean, I'm just real politic. And I mean, what we say comes true because we know what we're talking about. But yeah, the average political scientist is kind of in their own weird paradigm or left or right or their own weird little study area. So, I mean, the universities are basically becoming completely obsolete because of how far behind they are.
They are. And another point I wanted to tell you is in the beginning of the show, you were talking about the white race and how they're demonizing it. Actually, they really are. And what I've been seeing lately is like even girls now. I don't know if you've seen this, but even girls now, when a white girl, when you're white and you're trying to speak to a white girl, they don't really speak to you. They think you're demonized. They think you're cruel. They want to go out and like date third world country people because they're manipulated by the media. They're actually like they're brainwashed. You know what I mean?
It's 100% in the universities and everywhere. They literally teach. We can show you 1,000 headlines that white males are inherently evil and the cause of all problems on earth. And it is the mega banks and the big money that's financing that. And then when the left goes, okay, well, then that counts for Israel too. They go, oh, no. But yeah, it's really sad. But at the end of the day, you know, this is where we are. People need to become aware of it. Thank you, sir. Let's go to Sam in Tennessee. Sam, you're on the air. Welcome.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for taking my call.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've got two topics. I had called in Monday, but it disconnected before, you know, the show ended kind of thing. And so I'm actually going to bridge these two topics. Your topic of the day is on what to do about World War III, right? And I think we're in it. I don't think it's coming. I think we're in it. But to do a metaphor, it's been a long time since I flew, but I remember back in the day, they would tell parents, you put the oxygen mask on yourself first, and then you take care of the kids. And the whole reason why is if you go down, there's nobody left to take care of the kids, right? It wasn't a selfishness thing. It was
you got to take care of yourself first, or you can't take care of the people.
Yeah, and so I think the best answer is get our military like out of everything and make sure we preserve our nation first, you know. And then if World War III happens and the world takes a lot of damage, we are still here. I'm an American, and I care. And I'm care more what happens in the United States than I do about what happens in Brazil or Botswana or Zimbabwe or wherever, right? You know, because I'm here, not there. But then the second thing is when the dust settles, if we're still here, we're more capable of going and helping those that are left. You know, and so I think that's part of the answer. And I'm not saying don't trade with people, but bring our military back and defend ourselves first. Take care of America first, if that sounds at all familiar. So that's my answer on that one. Is let's get us out of World War III, and let's not get into it with the Russians, because I know China and some others have nukes too, but I think we'll be more capable of defending if they decide if those start shooting at us, and if it's us and Russia. Us and Russia annihilates the world. So there's that. Now, third party, just a brief voting history of myself. Last time I voted for a Republican in the general election was I voted for Jimmy Duncan in 2004. He was against the Iraq War. He was against the budget limit increases. When he got away from that, I quit voting for them in the general election. George Bush ruined me, man. I held my nose and voted for him in 2000, and after all the Patriot Act and stuff, I vowed to never do that again, to not hold my nose and basically vote against somebody, but only vote for somebody that's doing the right thing. The last time I voted in a primary, I voted for Ron Paul in 2012. Since that, I've not voted for him. And here's the reason why I'm saying this, is my vote's not being taken away from anybody. I'm not voting for Republicans or Democrats, period, anyway. So I would like to see somebody like a Tulsi Gabbard or an RFK Jr., or maybe both together as VP or something like that. And I'd prefer independent over third party, but if they do third party, fine too. And my vote is on the table for somebody that actually is America first. So I'm promoting the third party because that's the only way I'm going to vote anyway.
Great points. Thanks for the call. Let me elaborate on your first point. Everything you said was 100% common sense, in your face. We should be worried about our country. We shouldn't be getting into a new world war. But then you look at NATO that we mainly fund and what we're doing, and what happened with Biden and the globalists starting the Iran war, starting the Ukraine war with Russia, and all the rest of it. That is escalating towards total war. And it's common sense that, A, we shouldn't be involved in a world war, B, we shouldn't be starting it. And then with Iran, you had all these different globalist interests and Israeli interests wanting this war forever. Other presidents didn't do it because the Pentagon explained we weren't going to win it, probably. Very low probability. And so now we're in this, and the two wars have linked up, and it's a total disaster. So not only should we not be involved in wars, we shouldn't be starting them. And that's where we are. And it's because we're at the end of a cycle, and the forces that run the United States need a war as a distraction to try to control the world economy and have a political distraction while things basically implode here at home. And this has killed Trump's recovery. It's killed his agenda. It's sucked all the oxygen out of him. The poll numbers show he's going down and down and down. Those are real polls. I talk to people on the street. I talk to almost all his former supporters. Can't stand him now, but they're not dumb. They also don't like Democrats, but it doesn't matter. They're against the policies he's got on foreign policy and the betrayal. Because they realize, yeah, Democrats are a threat, and they'll be back in power the way we're going here. And that, again, is Trump's big mistake. But separately, Trump is the big front and center threat right now with this war. And it's just a disaster. And the neocons and the Israeli funding don't want us talking about this. They don't want us putting pressure on it. They don't want us saying no to this super unpopular war. They want us to just sit there and let us be sleptwalked into a total escalation of it that includes nuclear war. And it's just unreal where we are. Okay, who's up next here? Let's go to Matt in Massachusetts. Matt, you're on the air. Welcome.
Yeah, hey, Alex. I just want to say I love your show.
Love you too.
I found you in the mid-2000s on YouTube, and I've been listening ever since. And I remember back in the day, all the stuff you were saying, it has definitely come to fruition. You've been right on this whole time. I just want to say that. I have two topics I wanted to bring up. The first thing is about what they're doing to the kids. My wife owns a child care center. She's owned it for about 10 years. Prior to that, she was the director of a child care center. And when I first met her, some of the conversations we had is about what's going on with the kids, and she started comparing the vaccination records with how the cognitive disabilities of these children coincide. If you look at the records of the kids that, have disabilities, autism, all kinds of weird problems and cognitive delays, it directly corresponds with the number of shots they have. I mean, almost verbatim. And the children that she has that do not have any shots, they have a clean shot record. They're smart as a whip. Both my kids are what I call purebloods. They have no shots. They did not do the vitamin K shot. We refused everything in the hospital. And man, that was a fight 10 years ago, let me tell you. But it was well worth it because both my kids, top of their class, they're brilliant. They have very, like, almost no health issues. They never get sick. They're not allergic to anything. They're brilliant. So I just want to say the vaccines definitely are damaging the kids, and they're doing it on purpose to degrade society. The second thing I wanted to bring up is not so much the flock cameras, but the other cameras. So when I found you way back in the day, I went on a crusade to like find out what was going on with a lot of the stuff. And one of the things I found out was about the cameras and the intelligent traffic network system. Luckily, I grew up and I live next door to the mayor of the town that I'm in. The mayor's been mayor here for decades. He's one of the longest serving mayors in the country. I don't want to say the city because what I'm about to say could give away some stuff. So when I started digging into this, they started putting cameras up on the traffic lights, and and I don't know if you have them in Texas, but up here in the Northeast, and I've seen them up and down the eastern seaboard. There's long white poles with a camera on top that's white. So I started wondering what those cameras were. Well, this girl I knew happened to be dating the town lineman. The lineman is the one that deals with all this stuff and installs these things. So he had in his garage boxes of these cameras. And he had two different ones. He had the Autoscope Solitaire and another one made by FLIR. Now, this happened about 15 years ago, so I could imagine how advanced things are now. And they're all over all the traffic lights. And on the box, it said what the cameras did, and we could look it up online. And come to find out, 15 years ago, all the cameras they installed on top of all the traffic lights as part of the intelligent traffic network, they facially recognize, they do speed, they do vehicle recognition, pedestrian
That's what I was trying to tell people 20 years ago. Yeah. Homeland Security funded millions to put up microphones, face scanners through government systems, and then Flock came in as its own private group, so it got demonized because it was in competition with that. I'm not defending Flock. I was trying to get folks to become aware of the fact that it was like an inner corporate battle over who would be able to roll out the next phase of it, because now they're getting ready to implement all the controls of the systems that are already in place.
Yeah, so people listening to this, if they want to know about this, next to you, at every intersection that has these cameras, there's a big gray box. And in the big gray box outside the intersection are the electrical circuit boards and the servers, well, not the server, but like the boards that all these things plug into. All of these things are live time and hooked up to the internet, and they've been in the town I'm in for over 15 years now. Now, I started looking into this and became sketched about it, so I went and asked the mayor, because like I said, he was my neighbor growing up. I'm very good friends with him. And he told me, I will never say that, don't ever say I said this, but here's the truth. He's like, those cameras do take video, they do facial recognition. He's like, they are tied into the Fusion Center that's in Maynard, Massachusetts. And he's like, and when we build the new police station, we hope that we can utilize them to fight crime, because they're going to be tied into the command and control center in the police station. Well, a few years ago, they built a new police station, and guess what? Every single one of those cameras is tied into the police station, and they go to the Fusion Center, but they don't use them yet. They can't use them yet in court cases. So they are there.
Exactly. It's all waiting for the next virus and the next lockdown, they admit. It's not used for real crime. It's going to be used for total control. They've let the Soros DAs in over 1,000 jurisdictions, and judges are in control. They let you out of jail when you literally shoot innocent people or rape women. Sure, this all has great uses, but the bad guys are in control of it. The globalists put it in, and you are dead on. What an amazing call, Matt. Thank you for calling. And again, for the last year of the hype about Flock, I'm just like, okay, Flock's important. Small part of it. Oh, God, you're covering up Flock. And I'm just like, no, I'm trying to explain that this stuff is everywhere. And most of it is actually governmental when it comes to the streets. But in your house, your cell phone, the smart meter, the home assistant, your refrigerator has microphones and cameras in it. I'm not joking. Look it up. All the cars by law have kill switches in them. And I know most of you know that, but it's just so frustrating when people are like, oh, look, Flock's put up at the park. Oh, Flock's at a golf course. See, they're surveilling us. Damn right they are. But it's just watching everyone only discover it through this limited thing and then think that's it. And then they're like blind to anything else. It's weird how psychology works, but they started demonizing Flock a year and a half ago when I started using it, because the other federal agencies were blocking him from it. The states were blocking him. The private groups were blocking him. So Palantir is part owner in it. They were giving him access. So now, the left wants him gone now. And I'm just pointing out that's what this is all about. Not a defense of Palantir, not a defense of Flock, but why do you only know about Palantir and Flock? Because that's the new kid on the block that's sticking its nose in the trough, and the really big boys don't like it. Like, who runs the kill switch in your car? Oh, you don't know who that is? Well, it's the car companies, but then they have management companies and tech companies that run it. And it's basically Microsoft, Amazon, Oracle, and Google. And you can go look up industry graphs, Wall Street Journal and stuff. If you're a subscriber, Bloomberg, the big business thing, they have the graphs. And I mean, when it comes to surveillance and government servers and control, I mean, Amazon, Oracle, Microsoft, they're like up here, and Flock and Palantir down here, and they're growing. But my point is, you got to look at that, be aware of that. Also be aware of this. That's all I'm saying. We'll be right back. My fellow patriots.
The morning passed so quickly, it was time for them to meet. It was 11 when they walked out in the street. Folks were watching from the windows, everybody had...
everything's really frustrating as we discover all this tyranny. But I discovered it a long time ago. A lot of you discovered it a long time ago. We discovered different pieces of it at different times, but at least humanity is starting to wake up. So as negative as all this is, don't be demoralized. Realize this is part of the process, part of God's plan. God is in control. Brandon Strzok, really smart guy, puts on these great debates that I was part of Saturday that's going to air soon. The debate between MAGA and America First. He's going to be in studio with me coming up at the bottom of the hour. We'll cover a bunch of topics, a bunch of news. But right now we're taking phone calls. Let's talk to Greg in Florida. Globalism takeover. What? He says, we can't wait around. Boy, I agree with that. So, Greg, give us your take.
Hey, how you doing, Alex?
Good, brother.
Good. The one caller earlier was talking about getting the right people elected, this and that. Well, that's fine. We have to do that. But we have to somehow, we got to, I don't know how we're going to do it, but we got to make a stance. One thing that I think is a problem is over the years, if you recall, I'm the guy from Laser Tech. One thing that's a problem.
I remember your call. You called in 5 or 6 times. Recap who you are. I'm trying to remember it from memory, but the specific stuff you discovered in government contracts.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. And I told you about those bonds, those COVID bonds. Heard that. But we were. One thing's this: we're getting yanked into these wars, okay? And I really believe, I'm just going to say it, we fight all Israel's wars, okay? They don't, when Trump, when he came out and said he's calling a ceasefire and this and that, the Israelis are still firing on those people. But I think Israel is total globalist, okay? And the people that are feeding our administration some information, I think we have some bad people in there. I hope Trump, God, I loved it when Trump was, I know he listens to your show. I hope he still does. He's got I hope he's 2 steps ahead of these people, because in the big picture, we can't go on like this. It's tough, Alex. It's tough. I mean, we're getting these, these little wars and this Hormuz Strait going back and forth. Are you kidding me? Get the job done or step aside. And, we'll suffer the consequences if we have to. But the thing is, I really believe this is all a dog and pony show of what's really going on out there. What do you think?
Well, it's a dog and pony show. I mean, at the BlackRock level, they want it closed to destroy the world economy because they want to come in and loan all the countries and people debt. And that's why BlackRock's so happy. So even above Israel, BlackRock wants this war. And Israel's finance minister says they want it to hurt the Iranian economy, but it also hurts the whole world economy. So that's what this is.
Why do you think Israel, what power does Israel have over us?
Well, Israel has a lot of the U.S. billionaires are Zionist, and even some of the ones that aren't Jewish are, and they have great control over Congress with AIPAC, and so they're the muscle to get the war done. There's other interests that want the war, the military-industrial complex and BlackRock, and so that's why we're here.
Geez, I had on CNBC, because they do a decent job on the market and this and that. Had them on this morning, and that bastard Larry Fink was on there for a very short time. I had to shut the TV off. The guy makes me sick. But
what was Larry Fink of BlackRock saying?
Oh man, he was happy about real estate and everything. And those guys hoarded up all the real estate, and that's one of their little schemes there. They're going to
that's where they hide the inflation. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Let's find that Larry Fink clip, guys. Look at Larry Fink and CNBC today. Thank you so much, Craig. We'll be right back with more calls in 60 seconds. Stay with us. Ladies and gentlemen.
Discover trends and global developments years before they happen, right here on The Alex Jones Show.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is The Alex Jones Show, alexjoneslive.com. Of course, follow us on X at AJNLive, at Real Alex Jones. I'm at Harrison H. Smith, sitting in for Alex today. Very happy to be welcoming my guest, Mark Palaciano. I just misplaced his, I'm making sure I'm pronouncing that right, Palaciano. He's a lifelong Texan turned T-Mobile whistleblower, investigative journalist. He's known for roasting Frisco City Council. He's been exposing T-Mobile after working there 17 years, and he's turned his sights to Frisco City Council, where he's exposed the Indian takeover being fueled by H-1B visas. He's a big reason why Frisco City Council decided to turn off public comments on non-agenda items, because you can't have the people expressing themselves, God forbid. Follow him on X at Mark Palaciano. As he said in the video, if you saw it in the last segment, you have to spell his full name out. They do not want you being able to search this guy easily at MARC_PALASCIANO. Mark Palaciano, thank you so much for coming to the show, sir.
Thanks for having me, man. This is a huge life moment. I'm almost going to shed tears after watching my own video exactly 1 year ago, exposing the crazy H-1B takeover, how corporations are really destroying America from within. And not to change the topic either, but 1 week after that, I was put in jail in Collin County for harassment, which was really, the state of Texas said I weaponized the First Amendment and free speech, all because I hurt the feelings of a T-Mobile executive.
Okay, that's correct. I had no idea about that. Explain that to us. So give us your story. You're a T-Mobile whistleblower. What does that mean? What were you blowing the whistle on? When did that happen?
Yeah, no, thank you. So I, worked for T-Mobile for 17 years. I requested to be laid off because my goal was to go be an investigative journalist, be an independent journalist, just like yourself, right? Talking about things you can't find on mainstream news. So my plan was to kick off by being a whistleblower, exposing T-Mobile to launch my platform. But I underestimated how important my story was because exposing T-Mobile caused me severe shadow banning and censorship. T-Mobile is the World Economic Forum's telecommunications company. They created the vaccine passports for the World Health Organization, and they also created the digital ID that's being used in the European Union. T-Mobile USA is owned by Deutsche Telekom, which is T-Mobile Germany, right? They're 30% owned by the German government. They have all the technology to enslave humanity in the Fourth Industrial Revolution and the World Economic Forum's Great Reset. Social credit scores, central bank digital currencies, like I said, vaccine passports, digital IDs. So I exposed all that. Not only that, but I shared my firsthand experience of exposing T-Mobile's diversity, equity, inclusion, and environmental social governance here in the United States. So, for example, T-Mobile still today provides unlimited money for transgender surgeries while they limit money for other benefits. So if you're a mom and you have 4 kids, all 4 of your kids get unlimited money for genital surgeries. They'll help you. They'll tattoo nipples for you. They'll do chin stuff, all of it, right? You have unlimited money to be able to do that. I expose how they have 10 diversity, equity, inclusion groups that are really designed to discriminate against white Christian males. And now T-Mobile, as a deal with the Trump administration last year, they got rid of their DEI practices. On paper, let's be real, they're still alive and well inside of the organization. But I can go on and on about this stuff. I've been speaking up for 3 years. This is a huge accomplishment for me to be seeing myself with Alex Jones live, talking to Harrison Smith. So I'll shut up now and let you respond to some of the crazy stuff I just told you about.
This is so much deeper than I even thought it was. I know you from your videos, and you do a great job, sticking it to the Frisco City Council. I had no idea about all this in the background. Although I had a bit of a suspicion, because in that video, when you're like, basically we're being sold out so these international corporations can buy, it's like, okay, this guy gets it. It's not, you're not operating at this lower level. You understand that, okay, it's not just like Muslims wanting to take over America. It's these big companies that rely on their lower wages, and so they're getting kickbacks to the, I mean, it's not that complicated, but it's a little bit more complicated than just I'm angry because I don't like these people. No, this is a sophisticated operation selling out the American people. So I knew you were a little bit more on our side than not, but that is way deeper than I expected. So you blow the whistle on T-Mobile. You're exposing all of this stuff that they're doing that their customers, such as myself, probably wouldn't like that much. How does that lead to you getting arrested a week after the video that we just watched?
Yeah, I went to jail a week after the video. So I have been severely shadow banned and censored online, which I've exposed on Substack. I was watching myself to be deleted by Google, right? I'd search me and all of a sudden I wouldn't show up. I believe X tested a lot of their new censorship tools on me. And so when I got censored and shadow banned, I started texting T-Mobile executives. I worked very closely with the guy that is now the T-Mobile COO, the second guy in charge at T-Mobile. I knew him. I knew his right-hand partner. And so I was pissed off, and I was texting him like, hey, I know T-Mobile is working with big tech to censor and shadow ban me. My TikTok was deleted. People can barely find me online. My impressions got crushed. Like, I know it's happening, right? But you can't prove it. And so anyway, I started texting the executive. I'm not getting anywhere with that. So my next step is I went to his neighborhood in Prosper, Texas, and passed out flyers. Now, he lives in a gated community, not with a security guard or anything, just like an apartment complex, right? So I drove him by in a car, and I walked to every single house and put a flyer on the doorstep that shared a little bit about my story and had links to 6 of my other stories I've exposed about T-Mobile, which is a lot of the crazy stuff I just explained to you before this, right? He filed harassment charges on me. I turned myself into the Collin County Jail. This was October 2024, and we didn't go to trial until August 2025. What's crazy about my trial, and so during that time, I went and stood in front of the Collin County Courthouse and held up a sign saying the DA framed me with T-Mobile. I was wild and out, doing all sorts of crazy stuff because I really kind of trusted that the jurors would be on my side and see what I'm doing, right? But I learned that most of society is brainwashed these days. It's a perfect example, like, Shiloh being found guilty of free speech. You got Chud. You have a lot of examples in America where people are being prosecuted for their First Amendment right because the people that are sitting in the jury box are freaking brainwashed NPCs that don't understand our own laws. But anyway, sorry, soapbox there.
Well, but that it's an important background to understand. And again, it's like if you could just get your message out there, it's like, God bless you for resorting to handing out flyers, but like, why is that even necessary in today's day and age? Because the local media doesn't want to pick this up. The big tech is going to crush it. I mean, that's just going to happen. And so, of course, what inspired your turn towards, because I've seen you mainly focus on the takeover of places like Frisco. I doubt it's a coincidence that you were, arrested and thrown into jail for whatever excuse they had just 1 week after you gave that great speech. What made you turn your focus towards that? And were you noticing that while you were still at T-Mobile, that were they using H-1B visas to lay off Americans there?
That's a great question. So the reason why I speak at Frisco is because the big T-Mobile office I worked at is in Frisco, right? I would call it their number 2 headquarters in the United States. They're actually based out of Bellevue. I think they're going to end up moving to Texas as their main headquarters soon enough. But so I went to city council because, I expect people that take oaths to the Constitution to actually care about what I'm exposing, right? I mean, T-Mobile even censored text messages during COVID. There is so much tyranny that I have exposed that I believe people should help me. So at T-Mobile, when I was working there, I totally recognized a lot of Indians working in engineering. I had no idea what H-1B it was at the time, right? But I definitely witnessed that firsthand while working there. And then I went to Frisco, started speaking up. When they started ignoring me and disrespecting me by turning the camera to my back, that's when I started digging into the mayor. That's when I dug into the donations, right? I was already talking about H-1B visas, and it just I just kept building upon it. And, I went to jail. I was in jail from August 11th to November 23rd. I got out 2 days before Thanksgiving. Yeah, I was actually sentenced to 6 months in jail, but I got out early in Collin County because I worked in the kitchen, which got me 2 for 1. And my case was a misdemeanor. I did more jail time on a misdemeanor than some people do on felony drug charges in Texas, which is crazy. But so
for handing out flyers.
Well, if I wouldn't have the problem was I also text these guys, right? But he never asked me to stop. Another crazy thing about my case is Texas actually rewrote my charge. So the charge said that I kept texting him after he told me to stop, which was a lie. He never told me to stop. I was kind of waiting for him to tell me to stop, right? I kind of thought he blocked me, wouldn't listen to me. It was only about, I'd call it 30 or 40 messages over 2 months. And so we were supposed to go to trial in May, and the state requested to rewrite the charge. And then what they did after that is they filed warrants for all of my social media accounts. And they used my tweets against me because instead of the 30 or 40 text messages, they said I sent over 150 electronic communications as harassment, which those were my
Because you were tweeting about him. Okay.
Because I was tweeting.
Wow. All right. Yeah, that's very sinister kind of. And what did you say? They said you weaponized the First Amendment. Is that a quote?
Yep. That is a direct quote from the prosecution team. I weaponized the First Amendment. I weaponized free speech. I watched the prosecution in Collin County lie. I would bet that my Collin County misdemeanor case was the most expensive misdemeanor trial Collin County has ever tried. The whole room, on my side, I had my wife and her family, and that's it. On the other side, they had the whole misdemeanor prosecution team back there helping, sending text messages to the prosecutor. And, I watched the T-Mobile executive lie under oath about some things. And, it was crazy because I also, one thing exposed how T-Mobile discriminated against me during COVID with the vaccine mandate. I was on I wasn't just your low-level employee at T-Mobile. I actually worked my way up into a senior management position, and I was leading the response for COVID. That's what helped me get educated on all the stuff that I exposed. That's what really woke me up. Like a lot of Americans woke up in 2020, right? A lot of you guys were kind of awake before us, but a lot of us didn't snap into it until that happened.
Yeah, and we were up cooking breakfast, waiting for everybody else to make their way upstairs. Yeah.
And so, I exposed how they discriminate against me based on my vaccine status, which is actually a violation of Texas Health and Safety Code, Chapter 81D. It was crazy to watch the prosecution turn that around on me. Like, make me look for the bad guy, make me look as the bad guy for standing up for what was right.
Wow. Yeah, there's a lot of wrinkles. You make some pretty powerful enemies, my friend. That's absolutely wild. And the point you made during the speech we played in the first 5 minutes and that you sort of referenced just now, the amount of money, the looking into, who's giving money to these people, are they making choices on the basis of who's donating to their political campaigns? I've made the point that this is, I think, one of the key things that people are maybe missing. When an Indian person wants to buy a gas station, own a gas station in America, there's something like $200,000 worth of grants that they can receive from the government that are not offered to a white, indigenous, native born American person. That's $200,000 that they can either put into more inventory to make more money, or maybe they could hire more people, or that's $200,000 that they can donate to the political structure to get their people elected. So, all of these benefits that go to these minority groups, they are really just one step away from political power, because giving these people money and then allowing them to spend it back on the government to get them more money, I mean, it's a feedback loop that they're creating here. So I think that's a very important point about this invasion that people are overlooking. The more, money and wealth these groups get, the more political power they get. It's a feedback loop, a snowball rolling down the hill. Can you talk a little bit more about that, how you identified and what you think is actually happening with these donations?
Yeah, the donations. On top of that, the corporations are helping them. Look how, if you have an H-1B visa, you can go get a great credit rate on a car and buy a car for what you and I can get it for, right? Back in the day in like 2009, when I worked at T-Mobile in the stores selling phones, you know, H-1B visas from Infosys could walk in and get a free phone on a 2-year contract. I was 25 years old at the time working there, and I couldn't even get a free phone on a 2-year contract, right? But the donations, you can see, as I stated in that video, how the influx has gone from like 10% of donations above $1,000 were from Indians to 55%. And that was for the old mayor, Frisco Mayor Jeff Chaney. The new one, Mark Hill, who just got elected in last year, I mean, you should see how many donations from foreigners, whether it's Indians or Muslims, are going to him. I've exposed 3 of them. They run H-1B companies. I went to their offices and visited them, and nobody's there. And so not only are the foreigners figuring out how to donate and buy our politicians to get what they want, whether it's developing real estate, but also the fact that there's companies or the Indians that I believe should be investigated for H-1B fraud are donating money to the new Frisco mayor. And then he's even paying one of them to do advertising. And he's thanked them in his video where they have their big party where they celebrate he got the new mayor seat. And he's thanking one of the Indians that I've exposed that I think should be investigated for H-1B fraud.
And the H-1B fraud, it's the fraud on top of the fraud, right? I mean, I think H-1B visas shouldn't exist at all. But it's like, okay, here's this thing that exists. Maybe it can be used in extraordinary circumstances. If there's some aerospace company that has been trying for a year and it just can't find anybody qualified, but there's this great candidate in China, okay, maybe we can make a deal. It's like supposed to be for these specific cases, and the companies are supposed to fulfill all these obligations. Even with that, I'm not exactly for it. But then on top of that, on top of selling out our jobs to foreigners, the fraud is rampant. And again, people are generally becoming more aware of this, but have no idea about like the body shops that Indians run, where it's literally just, it's a mill. They just bring people in, take a cut of their earnings, say that they're qualified when they're not. What is it going to take for Americans to understand they're being scammed? Because that is like the biggest hurdle right now to me is people sort of see what's going on. They see that like, okay, wages aren't rising as much as they should, yet they can't take that extra leap to go, this is because we're being screwed over and scammed, and we need to stop these people from coming over and taking our stuff. What is it going to take for Americans to wake up to the reality of this situation?
That's why I continue to speak up and, fight for sharing my story and exposing the crazy stuff I talk about. And what's with H-1B, it's a little complex. So I think some people don't really understand it. The corporations that are using H-1B, they're not breaking any laws. The government gave them this tool to, like you stated, if it's used in some very rare circumstance, but it really shouldn't even be available. It's almost disrespectful to tell Americans like, hey, you're too stupid to do these jobs. So we got to go to India and China to find. I'm sure we got kids in high school that can do better coding than these H-1B Indians, right? And so, but it's the corporations, they're using it within their legal rights. The other piece of it is these Indians that are creating their body shops and these consulting firms, and they have, when I go look at their employment, when I go look at the H-1Bs, their labor condition application, which is the filing with the government, I can see the ones where they work for T-Mobile or Verizon or these corporations. But then there's some that are working directly for the Indians person's company. Those are the ones that are questionable. One led me to a house in McKinney where there was 3 labor condition applications registered to this house, and I went and knocked on the door. That Indian that I was digging into is actually also the guy who is funding one of the new Hindu temples in Frisco, Texas. Because that's another thing I've exposed here in the back in May. I exposed how on the Frisco City Council agenda, they were voting on 2 new Indian temples and 1 new mosque, all in one night. You probably saw videos from that May 19th where it went viral. There were so many people there. But I exposed who's behind both of those, the Jain temple and the Hindu temple. And both of these people are tied to nonprofits, and they're running companies that have questionable H-1B activity.
So again, when you think about this as a assembly line almost, right? It's like people come in, they file for H-1B visas. Every single H-1B visa recipient brings in an average of 15 family members, by the way. Those are some of the numbers that we've heard of recently involving this type of stuff. They get bonuses from the government. They get grants from the government to start their business and hire people. They're put on welfare. They're not having to pay for groceries like Americans are. It's extra money in their pocket that they can give to politicians who will bring over more of them, and then they can contribute to their ethnic groups, which will build temples for them, which will inspire more people to come. I mean, what they're doing is smart. From their perspective, it's like we have just opened ourselves to be taken over, and they're taking us over. And it's obviously a very well orchestrated, well-oiled machine they're running. It just has no benefit whatsoever for the American people. And this, to me, is the most frustrating part. And I think we just have time to go, well, at least go to the beginning of this video. This is also in McKinney. So McKinney, Texas, Frisco, Texas sort of seem to be the hotspots of this. But this is a Muslim supporting the construction of a proposed Islamic center. And just last night, there was a lot of very contentious hearing in McKinney about this Muslim center, and we can show you more clips from it. But this one I think is interesting. It's a Muslim man supporting the building of this Islamic center and mosque. And we'll just play the first few seconds because of how he starts his speech. Let's go to clip number 33 now. Guys, clip 33. You know what? Our numbers are all
Just
messed
a few
up.
years ago.
We must have messed up. There it is. Let's watch this.
We will change the United States Constitution with this mosque.
So everyone's booing. So he starts out the speech there going, we're going to change the Constitution. And everybody boos. And this to me is emblematic of just like, why do we have to do this? Why do we have to spend our time, go out on a weeknight, go to this to say, hey, we don't want our Constitution changed. We don't want our fundamental morals of our country changed by hostile foreigners who disagree. It's like, why is this a burden that the American people have to constantly be on guard against our own government selling us out to foreigners? It's outrageous, honestly.
Yeah, and a lot of it has to do with fueling the culture wars, right? Like you said it earlier, a lot of people just want to fight with the Muslims or fight with the Hindus, but ultimately it's our government that's captured. Our government is they're the ones allowing it to happen. Those are the people that take oaths to constitutions. Those are the people that are supposed to be helping us. Now, like with the mosque stuff, what's crazy though is Texas state and federal law protects these Muslims from building as many mosques as they want to. And that's what a lot of people don't really understand is like the city council, yeah, they're bought and paid for. They're sold out, but they can't vote no, because if they do, they're going to be sued and they're going to lose. And so it's time for our federal government and our state leaders to step up and do something different. And that's just, I can't even get these guys to call me back. I've reached out to I've shared a lot of stuff where I can tell you like, holy smokes, this guy's got a crazy story. He's exposed a lot of stuff. I can't even get help from the government. I've reached out to every person that should care, and they don't even respond to me or take the time to talk to me.
I'm not exactly surprised, obviously hugely disappointed, but yeah, no, you're exactly right. And again, just to picture it just at the fundamentals, like what's actually happening here is you've got a group of people who are like, hey, we're going to impanel a government. They're going to protect us. They impanel this government. They give them authority. And then they turn around and that person is just selling out their birthright to strangers. And it's just like, then why do we even have this government? The whole role is to protect us from them. Now suddenly they feel like they have to give them an equal treatment. Why? This is ridiculous. We'll get into it on the other side, but this is exhausting. We need a government that just doesn't attack us and try to destroy us constantly. Wouldn't that be something? Wouldn't that be amazing? A government that serves us, the people? What a thought.
The program leftists failed to silence. It's the Alex Jones Show.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Alex Jones Show. I'm your host, Harrison Smith, sitting in for Alex today. Rex Jones will take over for me in the next hour. He's interviewing Brandon Weichert in the fourth hour of today's Alex Jones program, and then continuing to man the helm for the War Room today. Brandon Weichert, of course, very well-informed, now increasingly popular analyst. In the case of the Iran war, he's been one of the only people to be right about everything the entire time, so stay tuned for that. I'm joined by Mark Palaciano, who is a man in the arena who took it upon himself to do what we implore all Americans, with the talent and ability to do, become a whistleblower, become a journalist, get involved, get active, cause problems for the little petty tyrants in your city council that are selling out your birthright for pennies on the dollar. Incredible interview so far, and stuff about T-Mobile I had no idea about. You can follow Mark on X at Mark_Palaciano. And interestingly, Mark, we got a letter. This never happened. We received a letter during the break, no joke, from somebody watching the show, and I wanted to read it. She says, "Good morning. I just tuned into the show and heard Harrison interviewing a guest about T-Mobile and their H-1B visa practices. It really struck a nerve for me." She says, "I worked in customer service for UNFI, one of the country's largest food distributors, from 2023 to 2025. My employment came to an end when the company laid off the entire customer service team, including representatives, supervisors, and managers, many of whom had been there for over 20 years. Employees in finance and IT were also affected. The company outsourced these roles to Wipro, a firm based in India. It's difficult to understand how companies can let go of experienced American workers and move those jobs overseas. For those of us directly impacted, it's not just a business decision, it's deeply personal and raises serious questions about workforce priorities and corporate responsibility. Someone needs to protect American workers, not shareholders' pockets." Love the show. So, I mean, we just received this, and obviously this person had hundreds of people with them feeling exactly the same way. I'm sure people that worked with you at T-Mobile saw their jobs go to India. I mean, this is such a regular occurrence now. It's treated as like normal. This is so abnormal in the course of human history. The idea that your government is just like aggressively selling off your jobs to everybody else in the world as fast as they possibly can. It's insane that we have to deal with this. And we do have to deal with it. I've got I'll read you the titles, at least we don't go to the videos, of McKinney, Texas, North Carolina, everywhere around the country. Regular people are having to take time out of their lives to go argue with their own government to say, hey, please don't destroy my livelihood. Please don't build a data center in my backyard. Please don't put up flock cameras on my corner. Just please stop attacking us. It's exhausting having to do this all the time. How do we get to a point? Is it even possible, Mark, how we can get to a point where we can just trust our government not to screw us over constantly? Because I feel like this is, even though, resistance movements like the one you're helping to lead and contribute to, people standing up and fighting back, it can be effective, but not over the long term. We need to end the threat. Do you have any idea how we get there?
Over the past 3 years, man, I feel like I've documented a story that exposes how far corrupt and how far gone our system is. I shouldn't be the only one out here talking about T-Mobile. Let me tell you some other crazy stuff. Like, they just got their new Indian-born CEO in November 2025. They're laying off Americans. Well, not only they're employing H-1Bs, they actually opened up, like the last screenshot, they opened up a new hub in Hyderabad, India, that services T-Mobile USA. Right. So now, and what's crazy is I heard from some T-Mobile people that they actually sent Americans over to India to go train these employees. Yeah. And it's gotten absolutely out of hand with the foreign takeover. And, you kind of mentioned Flock. I'm not going to create a whole new rabbit hole, but T-Mobile has all the technology for 15-minute smart cities. Right. Think about 5G. Think about them connected with Starlink. And so anyway, I have to actually fight to have hope. Like I said, I've been censored. This is huge for me. Like, every few weeks, I kind of get in this moment where, like, man, I can't get anyone to see my videos on X. I can't grow on my YouTube. I'm trying all these things. I'm speaking up. Big tech can shut me up. But then someone like you comes and, puts your hand out and gives me an opportunity to share my story. And it reinvigorates me to keep speaking up. But like you said, I mean, I don't know what else to do. I mean, I stand outside of buildings with signs exposing stuff. And so I've tried everything.
Well, no, absolutely. And the thing is, we rely on people like you too, right? I mean, this is a mutually beneficial exchange here because we can't be looking into all this stuff all the time. We're trying to cover the war and the everything. So it's like we need people like you. We need people on the ground. We need people reporting this stuff. And if we can serve as a hub to get your information out to more people, then that's what our purpose is at the end of the day. And I do encourage everybody to go follow Mark. You can follow him on X at Mark Palaciano, but you got to spell the whole thing because just like with Alex Jones or myself, you have to type out the whole name. Even, I mean, when it comes to Alex Jones, you have to type out the whole name, then hit search, then scroll down to find him. I mean, these little manipulations, these little, just make it a little bit harder for people to find. It has a big impact. Follow Mark at MARC_PALASCIANO and support and spread his work. Because again, the video that we showed, I said it, in the first segment, I was watching that video before we went live, and the crew could hear it from my computer. And after it was over, they chimed in and go, yeah, that almost made me throw up. I mean, the stats that you're delivering are so devastating that like people can't help but recognize that it's a problem. I mean, even if they think, oh, you're just white supremacist, that blah, blah, blah. It's like you hear the rate at which American jobs are being sold out. How can you deny that this is an attack against the American people and the middle class in particular? Let me just read some of let me get first your take on what's happening with deportations, because Mark Wayne Mullins is out there trying to, put across the idea that they're really taking it seriously and deportations are on track. He says they're on track this year to deport more illegal immigrants by the end of this month than they did for all of last year, adding that over the last 7 days, they're averaging 4,200 deportations a day. That sounds like a lot. 4,200 deportations should sound like a lot, but you're talking about 1.5 million or so on average for the year. Considering the fact that we brought in something like 20 to, I would say, 50 million in those 4 years. Somebody did the math. I think it was Andrew Barca did the math, and he's like, okay, so in 70 years, we'll have expelled just the people that came across from 2020, which of course is absurd because in 70 years, they'll all have great-grandchildren by then. This is not fast enough. So obviously, Trump, who ran and got his start and his whole thing was being the deportation guy, he's not doing it. So again, it's like, what is it going to take? We can't even stop the flow, let alone reverse it at the rate that we need to. How are we going to do this? This is one of the things I do, Mark. I don't know if you watch the show. I ask my guests impossible questions like, how do we fix immigration? Go, sir. But seriously, I'm at my wit's end too. I don't know who else we can vote for if Donald Trump himself is incapable of this. What do we do here, Mark?
Yeah, candidly, man, I've tuned it all out. I don't have any trust for the government. Like I showed you, when you're a whistleblower and then you get put in jail for your free speech, and I reached out to the whistleblower program, every elected official that should help me. No one cared. And so I don't have faith that they're going to deport all these illegals. And while they're, celebrating how they're going to take 20 years or 70 years to deport the same amount of people that came over in the past few years, the floodgates are open for corporations and H-1B visas. Yeah. Like you said, one H-1B visa can lead to 15 people coming over here. And so it's just, this last election, I didn't vote. 2020 was actually the first and last time in my life that I voted. I watched the election be stolen with mail-in ballots, and I believe that's why COVID was here, and so on and so forth. But then, I saw everybody being real hyped up about Trump in 2024, but I've drawn a line in the sand with the vaccine, right? Like, that's one of the things that I speak up about with T-Mobile and how they discriminate against me based on my status. And until the government recognizes like that wasn't good, I just can't buy into it anymore, right? And so, unfortunately, I don't have faith in the government doing anything that they are saying they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely don't blame you. And that brings to mind the fact that Todd Blanche, there was an article, I don't know if I have it here, but it was like the Senate didn't want to pass Todd Blanche. And so Donald Trump was like, if you don't pass Todd Blanche, then I'll try to get the weaponization fund restarted. And it's like, why are the Republicans the ones that are stopping the weaponization fund? If you don't, there's $1.8 billion that's been set aside to pay people for the pain and suffering they were caused by the persecution of the Biden administration. January 6th, the people that were arrested, I think it should go to people like yourself who were fired for, the jab. I mean, these were all violations of your civil rights. And, you have a class action lawsuit, you get a big settlement, and you deserve some, recompense for your pain and suffering. It's the Republicans that are stopping that. The Republicans are the ones saying, well, $1.8 billion, we don't want that to go to our people. No, we can't. Not in a million years would we allow this amount of money to go towards, any of our people to benefit their lives. Meanwhile, I think they just signed $700 billion for more weaponry. So, I mean, this is the absurdity. We even in times where we do get some sort of response from the government, it's our side that steps in and stops it. It's beyond outrageous. And we got to do something because, like I said, we can't. This is unsustainable. Let me just go through a few of these. We can go to .cam here. We won't go to these videos necessarily because they're very long. But McKinney, Texas, tensions high as the McKinney City Council meeting as supporters of the Islamic Center and opponents of the project clash. The McKinney City Council is set to consider approval of the Islamic Center and mosque. Again, if people don't want it in their neighborhood, why are they forced to accept this outside influence? It's absurd. Heroes rose in McKinney tonight, and Congressman Keith Self delivered the truth without flinching. So U.S. Congressman Keith Self looked at the mayor and city council dead in the eye and refused to soft pedal reality. Self reminded them of 1,400 years of political Islam that cannot be wished away, bringing up things like child marriage, honor killings, saying, don't tell me it can't happen here because it's already happening in Texas, beating your wife, polygamy, all condoned under Sharia political Islam. Again, and then you've got the Muslim person going, yeah, we're here, we're going to change your constitution. It's just like, why are we having to defend against this? What war did we lose? I'm sorry, Mark, did we lose a war that I'm not familiar with? Did we get conquered at some point and we have to do this because we're at the point of a sword? Otherwise, why are our people having to constantly try to justify our own existence and try desperately to beg the government not to allow us to be replaced by people that aren't us? Again, this idea that we impanel the government, we empower them, we give them authority on the basis of the fact that we offload our protection to them, and that they turn around and go, yeah, but this Muslim guy from India wants to actually have your town, so I got to give him a fair shake. No, you don't. You are here to defend us and our way of life. Why do people think it's their job now to give an equal hearing to a bunch of hostile foreigners? I'm rambling, but it's just genuinely insane, dude. What do we do? I mean, why do we have to do this? Why do you think the city councils all around the country, everywhere you look, can't seem to recognize that this is an invasion, a takeover, a conquering? Why can't they understand that?
Yeah, no, you asked what war did we lose? And we're losing the war of the government versus the people, right? Mm-hmm. And our government is bought and paid for. Every single elected official, all they care about is making money. They don't care about the oath that they took to the Constitution. They don't care about people like me that are speaking up. I should be, and just to share, I'm completely self-funded. I've been living on my savings for the past 3 years, right? My goal was to make money with independent journalism, but big tech has me by the digital balls, and they have made it extremely hard for me to succeed in that, right? And so, yeah. But if I started taking money from companies and donors, I probably wouldn't be saying the stuff that I'm saying. Right. And that's the reality of America is a lot of not only are our politicians owned, but a lot of these journalists that we see that have big platforms, they're owned too. And they are purposely driving agendas that is really kind of dividing America more and making it hard for us to unite because it needs to be the people versus the government at this point. And it's just really hard to do that when you have all of us being separated through these culture wars that are going on.
100%. 100%. Again, I just can't help but try to like put it in a different frame of just like, we're supposed to be a family. This is like the father and the mother of the family just being like, yeah, but it's kind of unfair for me to benefit my own kids over these other random kids that hate my kids. And it's like, why would you think that that's a moral position? Why would you, as the authority, as the leadership of this country, why would you think that you have an obligation to give a fair hearing or actually give the benefit of the doubt and prefer people that aren't your constituents? It is a fundamental disconnect with what their actual role is. And it does all come, as simple as it seems, it does all come down to money. You have things like this. Utah Senator John Curtis proposes state-led migrant worker program. This is a supposed conservative, but he's introducing a bill on Monday that would create a voluntary state-sponsored visa program allowing state legislatures to expand their temporary migrant workforce. So I guess they want the government itself to be hiring state-level guest workers. Again, conservative. We've seen conservative. The governor of wherever it was, Idaho or Iowa or wherever, was giving an interview where, again, he's like, and they literally bases on, well, GDP. Hey, we want line go up. I guess we got to sell out our constituents' birthrights. And it's like, they are the ones making it. We don't even have to say, hey, they're doing this for money. They think that's a valid reason to do this, which, again, this is all just so baffling. But yeah, it's the Republicans who are doing this. Is there any, I mean, do we just need to get rid of money in politics in total, or what here? Because, again, this is exhausting. We cannot be fighting every weekend just to beg not to have our culture destroyed. It can't go on. North Carolina, they're doing this as well. Do you think it's worse in Texas, or do you think it's just getting more attention in Texas? Because I constantly kind of have trouble determining whether it's like, dang, Texas is really being hit hard, or whether Texas is just a state that's actually standing up against it. So you see videos of people like yourself. Do you think Texas is being targeted in particular, and for what reason?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Because, like everyone says, once Texas falls, America falls.
Right.
Well, I've been telling people Texas has already fallen. My story single-handedly proves it. And, and that's, I would actually say Texas is the worst, because there's still a lot of people out here that think Texas is, this display of freedom and courage and don't mess with Texas. And you got people, every week we're seeing videos pop up of people speaking at city councils here in Texas, like you said, whether it's Indian takeover, data centers. We can go on and on about all the stuff that's being exposed. And, like I tweeted this out yesterday, there was a city council meeting in McKinney that you showed that was over the mosque. There was a city council meeting in Frisco where a lot of people were speaking up about this field being turned into a new retail space, which I exposed the developer behind it as another Indian guy. We don't know who his investors are, right? And then Ken Paxton's hosting his election party in Allen, Texas. So in Collin County, the city councils, people are standing up, but then the Texas Attorney General is like having a party in the same county. Like, what the heck is going on?
Yeah, and again, it really does just seem to be the money. It's literally just like, well, I can get money from my campaign, and they can make more money, so GDP goes up. And sure, I'm destroying the lives of American families, but I'm building the lives of Indian families, and I see all humans as perfectly equal. It's like, you're our leadership. What are you doing? Again, this is the absurd part. We do have time to go to some of these. Let's go to clip 15 here. This is in McKinney, Texas. This was yesterday, posted by Carlos Tusurios. Tensions are high at the McKinney City Council meeting as supporters of the Islamic Center and opponents of the project clash. The McKinney City Council is set to consider the approval of the Islamic Center. So let's go now to clip number 15. It's a short one. But here you can see, like, it gets physical. And you got this little old lady, which, like, this is the thing to me. You got a little old Texas lady. Why is she getting in fisticuffs with, like, a big Muslim dude? Which, again, it just seems absurd to me that it's like, so the people of McKinney don't want this. These other foreign hostile outsiders do, and so the city council has to weigh these two evenly, has to determine which gets to win. No, the people of McKinney win. Just automatically just go, oh, okay, they don't want it, then they don't have to be subjected to it. I don't mean to be repeating myself, but it is just this simple, isn't it?
Yeah. One of a quote that I feel like I came up with, I love to come up with random lines, right? I believe capitalism has been stolen from the American people, and it's now being used against us, because it ultimately is, bottom line, how much money can be made by whatever you're doing. And we both have listed off multiple examples in this conversation of how money is really fueling the actions of the people that are destroying America from within.
Yep. And again, just take it to the obvious, family metaphor. Obviously, I would love to make more money. I would like to have, more wealth, because I would like to benefit my children, because I want my children to do well. And this is the idea of like, oh, I want more wealth, so I'm going to sell my children. And it's like, it's defeating the purpose of wanting the wealth. We want our GDP to go up because we want Americans to do better. That's the score that's supposed to tell you that Americans are doing well. If you're selling Americans out to increase that score, what the hell are you doing? That's where I break with capitalism. Capitalism as a financial, exchange mechanism is great. it's not my religion. It's not my belief. It's not where my loyalty lies, which is different for Republicans, it seems. I think you're exactly right about that. Let's go to clip, I believe it's 37 here. Hundreds of North Carolinians have stormed a town council meeting to protest a proposed 5,000 square foot mosque in Mooresville, North Carolina, that they were not even told about. Multiple women got up to say that Islam is an evil ideology and to reject Sharia law. Let's go down to clip number 37.
Examine closely whether the building of this mosque is right for this community. I personally say no to Sharia law and this Muslim center.
How can you serve and protect us when you can't even tell us about a proposed mosque in our backyard?
It was a full house tonight at the Mooresville Commissioners meeting as the town considers a new mosque in the city that has been met with controversy. Many in attendance voiced their concerns about the new complex, with complaints ranging from traffic issues and a lack of transparency, as the potential property was not listed on tonight's agenda. The Board of Commissioners responding to those citizens tonight, saying the property has been approved for religious use since it was annexed into the town limits back in 1998. And they went on to detail how much space the building would take up and encourage the community to continue to share their concerns about any proposed project.
So again, whether it's Texas, North Carolina, all over the country, Americans says little old ladies are having to get up and go, I would not like a gigantic hostile colony in my backyard, please, only to be told, well, technically in 1998, they signed some random agreement, so hands are tied. Totally absurd. Thank you so much for being with us. Mark Palaciano, you're doing such a great job. I want to give you the final word and just a message to people of how they can support you, of course, but also what they need to know and you know how they can get involved as well, because not only do I want you to do well and succeed and be able to make this your full-time profession, exposing this stuff, extremely valuable service you perform, I want you to inspire other people as well. So how can people support you? How can people follow you? And what is your message of encouragement to those of us who are looking desperately for some silver lining on the clouds?
Yeah, no, thanks for having me on. This it means a lot to me. And, you know, that's one of the things that I've been most proud of is I've actually inspired other people to speak up. That's what I finally learned is like the only way that we're going to influence change is by all of us go speak up at these opportunities where we can, you know, and we have to kind of create, if everybody was doing what I was doing, we would have already started a revolution.
Yeah.
Now, I also know it's hard for people to do this because cancel culture, they're afraid of losing their careers, right? So I know that I speak up for a lot of people and I say stuff that others can't. You know, support me. Like I told you, I'm self-funded. So please subscribe to me on X or subscribe to me on Instagram, right? I want to stay completely self-funded and not sell out to some, you know, company that's going to dictate the things that I can say or can't say. And so, yeah, it really, you know, if you go check out all the stuff that I've exposed and share, if you know, even if you can't subscribe to me, just share my stuff, share my story, share my accounts, because I guarantee whether you go to my YouTube and watch one of the 19 times that I've spoke at Frisco City Council, or you go to my Substack and read about T-Mobile, you're going to see some crazy stuff that is truth you can't find anywhere else that exposes kind of how America is being destroyed from within.
100%. No, absolutely. We need you as a success story. Follow Mark Palaciano on X at Mark_Palaciano. That's MarkPalaciano. Cannot thank you enough for doing everything that you do. And I'm sure we'll talk to you again very soon, sir. Thank you for being with us. Folks, stay tuned. Rex Jones takes over with Brandon Weichert on the other side. High-level warfare analysis. Stay tuned and go to the Alex Jones store to support us.
Iran wasn't a great power like Germany. It wasn't a great power like the Soviet Union. We're making Iran a major power as we go forward. But this was the biggest one, much more difficult than Vietnam, much more difficult than Iraq, much more difficult than Afghanistan. And so the consequences of taking on that much more dangerous, difficult foe are going to be with us really significantly longer.
Robert Pape
has been analyzing, tracking, running simulations on all of this. Literally, the final lesson that this guy has taught at college, at school for a very long time, for a period of years, has been, what would a simulated, attack on Iran look like?
We are in a wicked escalation trap. We're not just seeing escalation, we're seeing it grow horizontally, and we're seeing Iran now initiating attacks, not just on the receiving end. The United States started this war and is now in a strategically worse position and is trying to simply get back to even. This war has upended the balance of power in the region that existed before the war. Before the war, America was the ascendant power, Israel the rising power, and Iran the declining power. Now all of those lines are reversed. And Iran thinks it won the war and it should be in control of Hormuz and have large influence in the Persian Gulf and the Middle East it did not have before. The United States is trying to reverse its defeat and is not accepting the new status quo.
The history of us covering this Iran war and being against it, this whole conflict, is not some crackpot theory that we have about how this could potentially be bad. This is what all the experts have said, again, since before day one. You can go to college professors like Pape, you can go to analysts like Larry Johnson.
We don't have good intelligence, and we certainly don't have ground-penetrating radar that tells us how many missiles they've got stacked up in these tunnels and buried in these mountains. But I guarantee you that in addition to storing such missiles, they're also doing production of such missiles in these secure locations. So we don't have even a clue exactly how many they have.
You can go to literally everybody who commentates and talks about this in the online geopolitical space. This is not rocket science. Look at this. Trump's pattern of strategic defeat is only leading to more escalation, a world economic crisis, and more gains for Iran. This is the thing. The longer it lasts, the more concessions they're able to extract out of us. And the situation that Trump is in, it's very tough. He doesn't have the ability to extract concessions from the Iranians, but at the same time, he doesn't have the ability to extricate himself from the conflict, because if he does, Israel remains under threat because they're violating what Iran wants them to do by not invading Lebanon and not killing the rest of the Palestinians. You have to understand, this is all an ethno-supremacist war.
It sounds like you're saying one Jewish life is worth hundreds or thousands of Palestinian lives.
Not million. One Jewish life, it's 10 million, okay?
That just sounds racist.
Yes, I know. But this is the truth. Because God chose us. Because of this, you are jealous.
And it's not our ethnicity. It's not white people. It's not black people. It's not Mexicans. That's not the problem. What's the quote from The Hobbit? There's no need for war between dwarves, elves, and men. A legion of orcs marches upon the mountain. This is a real problem. We're fighting and dying in a war, an ethno-supremacist religious war, for people thousands of miles away that we're not related to and could care less about, that have no relation to the foundation or history of our new republic/empire here, the last 250 years of the United States. It's a ludicrous idea to think that you have to go fight and die or serve a state like this. And it's a ludicrous idea that any political candidate would come to you hat in hand and tell you just have to be good and support them a little bit harder, and we're going to be able to get all this done. We're never going to be able to get any of it done.
Alex Jones Show, because there is a war on for your mind.
Well, there's nothing spookier than geopolitics, and we have a geopolitical roundup overview, 4th hour on The Alex Jones Show for you today. I'm your host, Rex Jones, being joined by Brandon Weichert. Brandon Weichert is the senior national security editor at 1945.com. He manages the Weichert Brief on Substack. You're on basically all the big geopolitical commentary analysis channels. I see you on Mario Newfall basically every other day now, and you're hosting daily. So I just want to welcome you back to the show.
Now.
So what's going on there with Mario?
Well, he's got some of the best guests in the world. I mean, you sent me a thing that he just did with Morandi of Iran, so he's able to get not just the American point of view, he's able to get the other side as well, and I think that's integral.
Here's the thing. I like watching 80-year-old Air Force generals on Fox News. I think they know the reality of what's happening around the world. I don't want to listen to all the experts and the people with real credentials that aren't in government because they're too serious. I want to go watch Jack Keane.
Well, I will say that Mario seems to be hazing me a little bit now that I'm working with him, because he keeps giving me all the neocon generals in the afternoon. So I have to sit there and listen to how great Israel is all the time. But you
do a good job. You do a good job. It's a balanced show. Here's the thing. Here's what I appreciate. Here's what I appreciate about Mario's channel in general. You want to see what's called, my dad calls it, wide spectrum analysis. You want to see what everybody says. And here's the thing. If you hold anti-position against somebody's pro, it's only going to make you weaker if you don't hear their position, because you're not going to know how to refute it or respond to it. And ultimately, you don't really have the right to, right? You got to put yourself in that environment. I've been trying to do more of that. Been trying to do more debates and other such things.
Yeah, and I think, the way you beat the information war is you first of all have to understand what the other side is thinking. And I will tell you, I used to think there's no way these guys believe this. I've spoken now to some pretty high-level people on Mario's show over the last 2 weeks who are committed neocons, committed Zionists. I was a former neocon myself in my youth, because that was what you were if you were a Republican working in government. That's just the way it was. So they really believe it, these guys do, and these gals. I mean, I talked to Victoria Coates recently of Heritage. She was formerly the Middle East policy director for the first term of the Trump administration. Nice lady. She really believes this stuff. So, I think it's important that audiences listen and understand that these are the people currently or previously speaking to the highest levels of our politicians in both parties. And if you're wondering why things are falling apart, if you're wondering why, there's really no policy difference in the foreign policy realm, at least between Biden and Trump, well, you begin to understand why. There is a deep state. It is a bipartisan fusion party, as Michael Walsh calls it. And you got to understand it if you're going to beat it. And so when I talk to these people, I do let them talk. I don't try to do the Fox News scream at them thing. I try to understand. And I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot in just 2 weeks about what I'm dealing with.
For sure. This is my thing with people like that. It's one thing to be on the civilian side and to have like a different opinion or whatever. But when you're established in government and you've watched multiple of these disastrous campaigns, specifically in the Middle East with the same exact cast of characters over and over and over again, how do you say, well, it is what it is, time for round 1 million? Do they have any like realm of, are they thinking about the consequences of this stuff at all? Or do they genuinely think that we can do it again?
Yeah, they genuinely think that. You listen to, I think Mark Thiessen this morning or in the last 24 hours put out a tweet making fun of TPUSA of all places. I guess Andrew Colvett issued a tweet where he was explaining how one of their college members was saying the cost of food for students is so high. And Mark Thiessen's response was literally, cry me a river. And it's like, they really think not only America is Superman and we can do it all, but any hardship, you know what? Just deal with it. It's temporary. Be a man and man up.
Right.
And it's like, that's not what an actual U.S. policymaker is supposed to think about. Remember George Washington, his farewell address. Remember Eisenhower's farewell address. It's very clear some of our greatest military leaders who became presidents, Washington and Eisenhower, would not have agreed with Mr. Mark Thiessen. They would have been disgusted by that view, because the idea is not suck it up, we got to just go kill these people. The idea is what is in America's best interest. It's also a bit of a Hippocratic oath. You have that in medicine, first do no harm. Well, the same thing applies to foreign policy makers in Washington. First do no harm to the American people or to the national interest. If you're thinking about taking an action, always weigh it against, first of all, what are the knock-on effects, which they never do, and second of all, what happens to the prosperity at home? What happens to the average American? They never ask those questions.
Let's coin a new phrase right here: political malpractice. That's what it sounds like. Oh, we have the right to do it, the authority to do it, and then they do it over and over and over again like an insane person expecting different results, and it just results in more pain for the country. Where does that come from?
And then, well, it also comes from ideology. They are ideologically, and this is particularly bad on the right with the so-called neocons, although I think a better term for them would be democratic globalists, because that's really what they are. And in this case, democracy does not mean something good. It means that they've turned it into a fetish, and they want to visit it upon everybody else. It's sort of like gay pride. It's visited upon everybody now, and that's what they do. But it's an ideological thing. It's also obviously connected to an Israeli thing. This is all coming from certain people that are pro-Israel. That's always the commonality there. That's why it cuts across both parties. And then also you have the money factor, right? I mean, there's a lot of money and a lot of prestige that comes from being a neoconservative, of being a democratic globalist. Robert Kagan, there's a reason he's such a large man. He lives very well. He's very well protected. And this is sort of the problem we have is you may elect the most Tea Party, the most MAGA, or on the other side, you may elect the most democratic socialists of America. But 9 times out of 10, the moment they get up to DC, they get a look around and they realize how it's really run, and they want to be in on the in crowd. And that's why you have these people that get up there as outsiders. Within 2 years, most of them are no longer outsiders. They're bought and paid for.
Right. And I guess we can kind of watch that metamorphosis in our view, in my view, specifically with Trump, right? Because Trump loses money in his first term, does not have knowledge of the political apparature, or he doesn't have any knowledge of the components. You get people like John Bolton, people like Jeff Sessions, people like Bill Barr, and just establishment swamp creatures. And he gets out, persecuted, has the miraculous resurgence in 2024, and then he's a part of the club. He comes back, and it's just like, well, I describe it as what I call the Reagan deal. You can remake the party in your image. It can be your branding, the way they have the Reagan Bush 84 t-shirts, and everyone walks around in those. That can be you in 20 years, Trump. That will be the identity of the party forever. You'll be like Lincoln. You'll be like Reagan. It'll be Trump. You'll be on Mount Rushmore, and I bet that appealed to him. But it just doesn't seem like he cared about the other aspect of that, which in my view is selling out. You lose everything when you take that deal because you don't get to be the Reagan figure. You get to be Netanyahu's figure. And that's how America will see you. It doesn't matter it doesn't even matter how many billions of dollars you have, how many political institutions you have, how many campaign offices you have. It doesn't matter for the GOP. Here's the thing. I just watched JRE. I was watching Andrew Wilson's episode with Rogan, the second one he just did. And I mentioned in it, and he was arguing with me, and I was telling him how the two-party system wouldn't work. It's creating its own destruction. When I advocate for independent candidates or someone running inside the Republican Party or whatever it looks like, I'm advocating for that because I see that as a lot more of a rational path for us to fix or take over the Republican Party versus what we have if we just accept them railing us, essentially, is they're doing it to themselves. It's not our fault that you're going to be hurt in these elections when you have a coffins coming home, draped in American flags. Like, you're creating that campaign ad. We're not the ones doing it. And that's what really bothers me. What do you think?
Well, and interestingly enough, though, I actually just talked to Mario about this about 2 hours ago when I was in the guest role at that point on his show. And I said to him at the end there, I said, the one thing I'm surprised by is the Democrats haven't turned the Iran war into a real political victory for them, the way the Democrats did. I lived during the Iraq War. I remember how my Democrat friends on the other side were able to really convert, the failures of the Bush administration into real political. Hey, it ultimately led to Obama.
Yeah, they evangelized.
Right. It ultimately led to Obama in 2008. Without Iraq War, I don't believe there would have been an Obama. I think that maybe at most you would have got, at best for them, they would have had Hillary, who would have just been a continuation. The Iraq War creates Barack Obama, creates the generational change that the Democrats needed in 2006 to 2008. So they are not doing that, though, with this war. And I was telling Mario, I said, I really think the reason they're not is because, let's face it, a lot of the elite who run the DNC, they are themselves Zionists. They are themselves fine with this war. They don't like the fact that the Iranians have continued on, and they may not want the Republicans and Trump to get credit, but they're also not going to do much to complicate
that's
the ability
thing.
of Trump to wage the war.
That's the thing about my political theory is people just don't see, like, literally it's like a Yellowstone, the caldera. It could explode at any time and be a massive super volcano. Like I can feel the rumbling because I'm young and I watched this happen with Trump the first time. And I'm just, this is my prediction. I'm 23. I could be totally wrong, but I watched him come down that escalator. I watched that first debate. Yep. I told my dad he would be president, and my dad laughed at me and called me effing crazy. All right. Who's laughing now? None of us. Spoiler alert. We're all kind of a little bit terrified here of what Robert Barnes calls frontal lobe dementia. But like, I sense that same energy because whoever you have up there, both on the Democrat side, Republican side, it's going to be a huge field. It's going to be a massive field. You're going to have at least like a dozen people running on both sides that'll be able to pull at least like 1 to 5%. You know, remember the days of Kasich and candidates like that, days of candidates. Who else was running back then? Dang.
No, it was Kasich. It was Rand. It was Ted Cruz, Raphael. It was Marco.
Little Marco.
Egg McMuffin, but he wasn't a Republican. I think he ran independent.
Jeb Bush. Lest we forget, Jeb Bush, the man polling as a front runner at the beginning, and this is my whole point.
He had all the money.
Yes.
He had all the money.
All the cameras, all the action, everything, but the party itself had no energy because he had no energy. He had nothing to run on it. In fact, he had the vulnerability of the familial association with the Iraq War. And I think if you get Rubio up there, and I think if you get even Vance up there, and you have somebody like a Marjorie Taylor Greene, like a Joe Kent, like a Thomas Massie that says, hey, you know, we were actually hurt and persecuted because we tried to stick to the 2024 platform. When did you stick to the 2024 platform? I think that really hurts them, that question.
Or a Tucker Carlson might be. You know, crazier things have happened.
What's your theory?
That would be wonderful.
Break this down, because there was a dinner. There was a table photo that was taken. Break this down.
I don't know what that was about. I was just saying, you know,
just speculate.
This wouldn't be the first time an outsider from the media was able to pummel their way in because of the failures of the establishment. And, you know, I like J.D. Vance, but, you know, and Vance, to be fair, Vance has been, in my opinion, mischaracterized. I do think he did what he could from the inside to stop the war, but he's the vice president.
I don't think, that's what I was about to say. As VP, I wouldn't have taken that job. Personally, it's tough.
I tell you what I would have done the minute Trump threw me under the bus with Versailles, when he was like, "Well, if it goes wrong, I'm going to blame JD," and then, you know, when Trump went out of his way to humiliate and degrade the MOU, I think partly because it was seen as a Vance victory, because Trump has a weird thing about his subordinates getting more airtime. He gets very jealous. So if it were me, I would have issued my resignation. Then again, though, there is a chance something happens to Trump in the remainder of his term, and then Vance can be elevated into the presidency. So that might be why he's sticking around. But I would have resigned because you're not having the impact. But anyway, but the thing is, Vance is tainted on some level by this administration now. The failures of this administration. We might get lucky and get a deal on Friday. We might have a de-escalation. As I told Mario today, though, I am not convinced this is a permanent end of the war. You know, I think this would just be another pause, maybe several months worth, but another pause. I think Trump will keep trying to take a bite at the apple because I think he's insane. And so, you know, I don't think this is the end of the war. But the point is, every time we go back through this iterative violence, it hurts the political fortunes of the president and certainly of his possible successors. And I think actually that's one of the reasons why I was told by somebody who's close to Marco Rubio really doesn't want to run in 28. That's what I've been told.
Really?
Rubio doesn't want to really run in 28. Now, that could be disinformation. But I was told privately, and I live in Florida, and I have a lot of connections to Florida politicians in terms of their staffs and whatnot. But I was told by somebody who's very close to him that he's really not interested in 28. The only thing I can think of is because Rubio's smart enough to know he can read the writing on the wall. The Republicans are not going to win 28. So why run and taint himself with a loss when he can just hold out till 4 years thereafter when the Democrats are back in and they don't achieve whatever the hell they think they're going to achieve. So that is a possibility. But, the war has been so damaging. I think Vance is damaged goods now. And so it wouldn't surprise me if an outsider like a Tucker or even a Joe Kent, who, he was in the administration, but he wasn't at a cabinet level or a, vice presidential level.
I like the resignation letter. I like the resignation letter personally. That's my benchmark standard to run. If you say your wife died in a war manufactured by Israel, I don't think AIPAC can ever slide the receipts. Back door.
Look, the guy brought the receipts too. It wasn't just a political statement he made, right? He spent the next 6 months, 7 months going on international television and bringing the receipts, proving that Mark Levin and the neocons were piped in to the White House constantly. I mean, I know Joe, and I know his family, and he's an honest guy. You may disagree with his politics, but the guy is very honest. And he's not a liar. So he's not lying. And that's why they hate him in the White House, because they know he's bringing the receipts and he's a threat because he is the most decorated, well-known war hero of the global war.
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing. On the 2028 GOP potential field, I see a bunch of weak sisters. Right, I see a bunch of people that are establishment, that are in power, that are going to be running by nature of it's like the rotten, spoiled son of a king or something. So like Joffrey from Game of Thrones. Right, it's like I get appointed into this position that I don't even deserve, versus somebody that's been out there in the wilderness, like a Tucker, like a Joe Kent, like a MTG, like a Thomas Massey. I think the people that make the pseudo-analytical arguments about, you just can't ever go up against the machine. We proved that wasn't true in 2016. I think that fake analytical argument is actually an emotional argument. And it's kind of like a disbelief thing. They don't want to believe that change is possible. But at one point, Trump wasn't a figure at all in the Republican Party. At one point, people weren't even thinking about that.
He was a threat to the GOP.
Right.
I mean, at one point, remember, he was also, he wouldn't take the pledge in 2016 to support another candidate if he lost. I loved that. Right. I was like, this is awesome. Why would we getting into this? And I'll support. He made it clear to be fair, he wasn't a lifelong Republican. He was a Democrat for most of his adult life, a moderate Democrat, but he was a Democrat, and he funded Democrats because he needed to, and he funded Republicans when he had to. But he was a businessman at a very high level. So I always appreciated the honesty there. Something's changed with the guy. And it's no longer just impacting the domestic scene. It's now, as you're seeing, it's having really bad implications for the United States on the global strategic level. It's not just even losing the Iran war. It's now empowering China. It's now empowering the rise of this new alternative Eurasian order. That order was always in the offing, but in my opinion, because the president has been co-opted by these forces, he's now expedited the rise.
Let's get into
American
that.
Order.
Let's get into that, because we got about 3 minutes, 30 seconds left in this segment, and then in the next segment, I want to do a deep breakdown on what's happening geopolitically. But really, I think what you're hinting at is what my guest talked about on the show yesterday, Green Beret Matt Murphy, talking about the war between the BRICS and the Abraham Accords, and kind of a situation going down there. So kind of a little bit of a roundup in the time we have left.
Yeah. So the Abraham Accords is an interesting frame because the Abraham Accords are dead. There is no Abraham Accord, no matter what the president says. He killed it with this war. You could make the argument that the Israeli response to 10/7 really killed it. I talked to an Israeli brigadier general about this on Sunday on Mario's show, and it was just fascinating to hear the alternative reality. But ultimately, even the Israelis are sort of skeptical that the Abraham Accords as they were envisioned are possible now. Of course, they don't make the connection that it was their actions that caused the destruction of the Abraham Accords. So I would push back on the framing of Abraham Accords versus the BRICS. Certainly BRICS, that's a fact.
Well, I see Abraham Accords as Greater Israel, right? Because they're going to have to take parts of these countries.
The Zionists.
So whatever, they'll give it a cute name, a pretty name, but really just that war between the West and the East.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a thing. And Michael Yon talks a lot about this too, which is basically, in his view, it's no longer the U.S.-led system versus the Han Chinese. It's now Zionism in the West versus the Han Chinese in the East. And I think that's a very fair thing to say. I think you're seeing that play out. I think that's where it's going to go. The problem for the Israelis is that the two potential partners they needed in that kind of grand strategic fight, the United States are the obvious partner, but the Russians possibly as well. The Israelis have been destroying and degrading both of those countries, right? I mean, the Ukraine war is basically in some weird way connected to the Israelis. Through that war, they're damaging and irritating the Russians and forcing the Russians into the Chinese camp. To be clear, the Russians did not want to be in the Chinese camp. This is not a natural partnership, but they have had to go there because they've been forced into this position, into a shotgun wedding, and they're making the best of it now with Xi. But Israel could have used, especially because they have a lot of cultural ties and historical ties that the Jews of Israel do to Russia. They could have used that, exploited that to their advantage. They didn't. They've instead gotten behind this Ukraine fiasco, and they've degraded Russia and they've aggravated Russia. Meanwhile, the United States, the key partner of the U.S., everything that the Israelis have done in the Middle East, everything they've encouraged in Ukraine, this has broken the back of the U.S. defense industrial base that they're so keen on exploiting. And it's basically set the conditions where Israel doesn't have the kind of partners it needs anymore. They may on paper, but the U.S. can't do certain things. You just saw the head of EUCOM on Sunday say he's now at a point where he has to decide, because there's such a lack of destroyers, U.S. destroyers, as well as the SM-3 air defense systems those destroyers are using, he has to decide between homeland defense of the U.S. and defense of Israel. That's not a position Israel should have wanted to be in. So even their grand plan is not going to work as they see fit. They're going to lose this thing.
Totally disturbing. We'll be right back. Geopolitical analysis with Rex Jones on the network with Brandon Weichert. Thank you so much for joining us. See you after this break.
We now take you live to the Central Texas Command Center and the heart of the resistance, rallying patriots worldwide. You're listening to The Alex Jones Show.
Welcome back to the broadcast, doing the geopolitical roundup with Brandon Weichert. We the Brandon on X. Follow him there, geopolitical analyst, former staffer on the Hill, all-around political animal and great guy. Thank you for coming back with me here. I want to talk to you about Iran. I want to talk to you about Ukraine. Specifically, before we get into Ukraine, what is going on with this new 60-day MOU 2.0? What's going on in Iran?
Yeah. So it's interesting because it's been very murky. And, this is another thing I've been chatting with Mario about because he has some inside sources inside sources over there.
Sure.
And he told me about 3 or 4 days ago that I was being a little too negative because he was hearing that the president was actually never planning to go through with the threatened strike last weekend because the president is very worried about targeting energy infrastructure in Iran, knowing that the Iranians will retaliate not only against Saudi Aramco and other energy production sites in the region that would obviously spike the price of oil, but the Iranians have the capacity to strike energy infrastructure here in the United States. So it was a bluff, Mario says. I don't know about that, though. I think the president might have been very serious and then walked back from that.
Do you think the other Gulf country leaders like MBS, the Emiratis, and others were like, "Hey, we got to please don't throw us into the fire"?
Yeah, so I should have sent you that too at the Weichert brief, the second most recent article. I had an inside source in Saudi Arabia that claimed, and I couldn't confirm it, and I make it very clear this is all unconfirmed, but basically, before the weekend where Trump was saying he was going to do military terror, which by the way is a war crime on Iran, the MBS had a phone call with President Trump in which supposedly he implied that if Saudi Arabia's energy production is taken offline in a retaliatory strike by Iran, they were going to sell off lots, if not all, of their treasuries. They have about $140 billion worth of treasuries. That's a big problem because obviously we're currently in a dicey financial situation, and also we're trying to bail the Japanese yen out. So if the Saudis and the Qataris, it's either UAE or Qatar has another 140 billion, I think. So if they did a timed dumping of U.S. treasuries as like an FU to us for burning them, the whole system implodes. So I think that also was a factor. Anyway, I think that the president didn't really have a role. The White House didn't really have a role in the current negotiations, and that's been confirmed now. Trump's talking like he's the big Billy Badass.
But how?
But he's
how? Yeah. They call him desperately every day begging for a deal. This is what we're told.
Yeah.
Explain this, Brandon.
The reverse is more like it. Unfortunately, I wish the American leadership had all this leverage. No, the reverse is more like it. The president knows we're running low on the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. As long as those sources are stopped up in the Strait of Hormuz and the Strait of Bab el-Mandeb, we're effed in the long run. Shipping industry is collapsing right now. So anyway, no, the president's begging for a deal. And the Iranians are indirectly talking to us through the Omanis, the Pakistanis, the Saudis, even the Egyptians are involved. Anyway, the Omani deal is basically, they've whittled it down to, instead of two separate routes, co-managed, it's going to be one single central route, co-managed, but the Iranians get oversight. They have the precedence, not the Omanis. And rather than waiting 60 days, as the memorandum of misunderstanding that was signed between Trump and the Ayatollah originally called for in June, where they were going to be given a 60-day toll-free access to kind of get all the oil and stuff moving out of the strait again. That will not happen. As soon as this deal is finalized, which could come possibly by Friday, as soon as this deal is finalized, the Iranians and Omanis will create a joint tolling system, and they will both be able to basically start making money off this, which is a complete strategic defeat for the United States.
But Trump said, and I assume this is where you're going here, Trump said that we would charge toll, that it would be us.
Yeah. Well, that was never on the books. That was a Trump verbal diarrhea moment again, and I'm frankly over it. The Orange Man has a lot of gas, and he releases it at most inopportune times.
The puffer fish.
The pufferfish
strategy. That's literally what this is. Right. I never even thought about that. It's we don't have the capability. I'm just going to say that we're going to kill them all.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild.
And you can do that one or two times and it might get you out of a sticky wicket. But if you do it every time and you never deliver, then everybody knows you're impotent.
Pufferfish.
So, I mean, a bit flaccid. And that's America today. I mean, to be honest, it's the boomerocracy. We're run by flaccid men. And in Lindsey Graham's case, they have a lot of penis envy. But anyway, going forward with this analysis, the Iranians have defeated us strategically in this case too, because Marco Rubio, the president, every administration official, the UN is now saying you cannot cede this issue of control to Iran, allow them to impose tolls, even if it is jointly with Oman, because it's going to set a precedence now for these other natural waterways that everybody uses.
Right.
And guess what? It doesn't matter. We lost the war that we started, so the victor gets the spoils. Thank God they're not crazy as we thought they were. They're not talking about cooking off nukes in Tel Aviv or New York. That's not going to happen. Clearly, the Iranian government wants to be treated like a normal government.
Right.
Clearly, they want to have a clean, normal, representative role in their region. This is how they're going to get it.
Yeah, they've got the U.S. in a bind. It's like a genie, and they can extract one wish, but it's like a monkey's paw. So if they ask for too much, they're screwed, right? I think this is also a big factor. Like if they get involved in, let's just say, like they cut Oman out of it. Well, that's a pretext for Israel and America to always try to go back there, always, and try to say, oh, they took it for themselves. We want to help our allies, our friends in the Gulf. We want to give Iran another reason to target these bases. I think the Iranians are very sober-minded when it comes to this. I watched that clip of Prigozhin.
They're incredibly sober-minded.
Yeah.
Just to be clear, I was always hawkish about Iran. I never trusted the Islamic Republic. I still don't trust I don't trust anybody.
Sure.
But to be fair, in this war, they have demonstrated they're not the crazies. They're not. Every time we've escalated, they've met us on the same level. Every time that, it's always been tit for tat. It's been very legalistic. That indicates a rational actor. And you can work with that. You can actually work with that.
Right. I think on our end, when we talk about a big giant glow will destroy your entire civilization, where we have military service members issuing complaints about their superior officers, telling them they're at war to light the signal fire for Jesus to return.
Right.
And then we're told we have to go to war with them to end a theocracy. It's all just a bit absurd. And I think when you look at our relationship with the wars in the Middle East, it's very clear Israel has this insane influence on us. Zionists really control our foreign policy. It's why I call it an occupied government, right? But when you look at Ukraine,
we're a colony.
Yeah, 100%. King George III over there right now, 250 years, and then they did it to us again. It is what it is. But with Zelensky, this is a guy that was like Kevin Spacey. He played the president on TV. He was basically installed into power, in my view, my opinion. And then now he says, oh, no, we don't have election. We don't do that here. And, he's been in power for X number of years. And
it's the great democracy.
Yes, the greatest. The IDF is the most moral army in the world, and Ukraine is the greatest democracy. And that's right. And I got a bridge to sell you as well. But when it comes to Zelensky and his activities, they're saying they're nearly totally out of air defense. What's going on there, and what's the reality of these fortress cities in Ukraine?
Yeah, and if you can go to the Weichert Brief on Substack, that is the featured article today. Was my breakdown, because I've been, unlike the Western media, I am closely monitoring what's going on the Eastern Ukrainian front. Basically, the Ukrainians knew this was coming, and when I say this, about a month ago, maybe 2 months ago now, no, it was about a month ago, the Russians quietly took Konstantinovka, which was one of those fortress. I think there's 3 or 4 of them. That was one of those fortress cities. And once they took the Konstantinovka, they were then able to steadily begin a classic Russian encirclement campaign of the remaining handful of fortress cities. And these are cities that the Ukrainians have spent years building up into basically fortresses, knowing full well that this was kind of the last line of defense. This is Donetsk. This is kind of the last line of defense before the Russians can completely take all of eastern Ukraine, the Russian-speaking part of Ukraine, by the way. And so that was the last holdout, and they did a good job. Look, they've been able to hold out for 3 or 4 years now, 3 years really. But the Russians are just this. The attritional warfare is what Russia does, and they've ground the Ukrainians out. Meanwhile, the Ukrainians are throwing whatever weapons and men and women that they have at this problem set, and the Ukrainians figured pretty quickly that. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I don't like it when you're not patriotic. It's patriotic to support press gangs. It's patriotic to support conscription. Like here's the thing. For people,
and if we're not careful, it's going to happen here too.
Seriously, they're doing AI simulations on the draft right now. But in Ukraine, they don't even worry about the draft. They show up to your house. I saw one guy's like, I was playing video games and I beat the guy, I made him mad. He said, I'm going to find you. And then the van showed up and took him to the front line. And there's countless videos of this. This is just a reality. To people in the West, they need to understand, it's a world war already. We're talking about Ukraine. Yeah. We're talking about the Middle East. Just talk about how wide this conflict zone is, the Caspian Sea and all of that as well.
Yeah, well, the good news here is if we do, however, temporarily, and I think it'll go 60 days or maybe 180 days, if we do get a reprieve in Iran, the prospects of this really going global are frozen for a period of time. Because what you had up until a week ago was, the Ukrainians, and there's a reason they did this firing on those Iranian ships, or the Iranian ship in the Caspian Sea. And it's because the gains the Russians are making on the Eastern Front. So basically, once Konstantinovka fell to the Russians, the Ukrainians, Kyiv, they all realized, it's only a matter of like weeks, maybe a couple months, before we lose those fortress cities. So what do they start doing? Well, they start doing these impressment things where they're gathering men and women off the street, but also they started doing the drone attacks into Russia proper, targeting civilian soft targets, gasoline stations with lots of people waiting. They started targeting the refineries. They started targeting the wheat production, the wheat transportation, not only in the Black Sea, but out of the Sea of Azov, which is, huge. Yeah, that's the wheat coming out of southern Russia is a major contributor to food stuff for the global south.
And
so they're contributing.
We wouldn't tolerate having this done to us ever. Like this is the point that I want to draw from this. And
this would have been nuclear war by now if this were done to us, and even a fraction was done to us.
Right.
So, but yeah.
No, I mean just people in the West. Yeah. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, people in the West, they have this attitude of like, we can just get away with it. We can just keep doing it. We can keep bombing them. We keep paying for the bombs. Trump says, oh, it's beautiful. We're not bombing them. I sell the Europeans the bombs and the missiles and the equipment, and then they get to do it. Right. You don't get to just pass the buck.
And the Russians are returning the favor, by the way, in Iran, right? Most of those bases that have been destroyed of ours have been thanks to Russian targeting. Most of the ships, well, technically no ship has been damaged. Wink. But, the U.S. Navy, I think, has suffered some damage or near damage.
Laundry
most
fire.
of that is right. Most of that is because of the Russian satellite telemetry they're providing the Iranian missile guys. So anyway, let me just go back to the Ukraine thing, because the reason Ukraine is doing these drone strikes, the reason Ukraine desperately tried to destroy and get the Iranians to attack them, which was the goal. They wanted Iran to attack. And we know the Iranians were prepared to do 3 missile attacks in the last week on Ukraine proper, and they were talked out of it by the Russians. The reason that the Ukrainians were doing this is because they knew if left alone, the Russians were going to take eastern Ukraine. And once they take those remaining fortress cities, the Russians have a straight shot, flat land. It'll be a run into the Dnipro River system. The Ukrainians are desperately trying to reform a new defensive line there. That's not as easy to defend there as it was in those original fortress cities. The Russians are talking about conscripting 250 to 500,000 troops after the September legislative elections. I think that's what will happen. And then they'll be able to send those additional troops into the Dnipro defenses. They'll take them. And then they have the pick of the litter. Either they can go for Odessa, which I have been told by my Russian sources is the end point. That's where they want to end the war, is holding Odessa, or they could conceivably take Kyiv and collapse the whole thing.
Yeah, let me ask you about that, because if they take Odessa, that's their only deep water port, right?
That's Ukraine's only deep water port, yes.
So it's game over for them as like a functional world power.
If the Russians would be smart to end it there, because what they basically do is leave NATO and the United States with a rump Ukraine that's basically a welfare queen, and but it has nothing to offer. All the rare earth, all the blessed rare earths that we kept hearing about. Guess what? When the deal was made, they were already under Russian feet. Now they'll really be under Russian feet. So Ukraine, Western Ukraine, a rump state, Galicia, it basically becomes useless. It's a non-entity. It's a welfare queen for the United States and European taxpayers.
It's the perfect end equation for the Western transnational capital Zionist globalist agenda, because you get to destroy this country, you get to take it out, and then you can rebuild it in whatever image you want to do. And Larry Fink, he went over there with Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff, and he met with Zelensky. And, I'm sure this is all a contingency. So
it is, but I think this is contingent on the idea that they were going to hold on to Odessa at least. I don't know what a post-war Ukraine looks like if the Russians get what I think the Russians are aiming for, which is Odessa. It's going to be a very different country, because that Ukraine has nothing to offer. What does it have to offer?
How does that change the world order when and if that happens, Brandon?
So you have two things happening at once. And again, this is why they are connected and why we are, if not in a world war, we're almost there. You have the collapse of American military power in Iran in about 6 months. That happened in about 6 months. We've never seen anything like this. And this was a strategic defeat on a grand strategic level. So U.S. military power is over in that part of the world. The collapse of Ukraine, which is inevitable, I think, at this point, is basically the end of NATO. NATO goes on probably in name only. It's basically like the EU. It's there, but okay, what does that mean? And that's basically the end of the U.S.-led post-Cold War world. The real money, the real military power is now in Eurasia. We've been depleted. We've been drained. We've been humiliated. We've been defeated. What do we do from here? My concern at that point, and there are reports this morning that the Pentagon is now going to rewrite their nuclear warfare doctrine to make the deployment of tactical, non-strategic nuclear weapons in warfare easier to do.
Hold on.
And
let's not gloss over that here. What are you just breaking right here for people that don't know about this?
So the Pentagon is going to make it easier to use nuclear weapons in a future war, basically. Non-strategic nukes, tactical nukes, small yield nukes. Because the conventional capacity has been drained so badly. I just talked to Mark Cancian of CSIS the last hour on Mario's show, and he said that for the next 4 to 5 years, America is in what's known as the window of vulnerability. We've blown through our critical stockpiles. Our enemies aren't relenting. So basically, for about 4 or 5 years, we're sitting naked. Well, he didn't say this, but me reading between the lines, because Mark would never say something like this. This is me saying this. I then, in my head, paired what he just told me with this morning's report that the Pentagon is rewriting their nuclear warfare doctrine to basically make it more liberal in the use of nuclear, or easier to use nuclear weapons in a non-nuclear war. So what that tells me is to close the window of vulnerability over the next 5 years, the DoD, or Department of War, is basically going to say it's okay to use nukes.
That's the thing. We withdraw from all these arms treaties. We don't care about them. I think it was George Bush Jr. that withdrew from, I'm blanking. I just heard Lawrence Wilkerson talk about this. It was
the Anti-Ballistic Missile Treaty. Now, to be fair on that one, and I'm by no means a Bush supporter, but to be fair on that one, there was an argument at the time that we were trying to do space-based missile defense, and that treaty was complicating it. But looking back on it, we shouldn't have done it, because we didn't end up getting space-based missile defense, did we?
No, we didn't. If we look at something like New START, though, specifically, the Russians beg us to re-sign it. We're just like, no, we're not going to do that anymore. It's making an angrier world.
It's making an angrier world, and even the New START treaty in 2010, right? What did that treaty that Obama negotiated do? It actually allowed the Russians wanted the ability, because the Russians knew where this was going. The Russians wanted the ability to build out a massive number of new and advanced non-strategic tactical nuclear weapons. We allowed them to do that. We did not reciprocate because Obama was saying we don't want to do that. So what we have today is what we've always had. There's some new systems coming online. I'm not advocating for nuclear war, but I am saying New START even was a bad deal for America, because we told the Russians, yeah, you go ahead and build your non-strategic nukes. And now we're in a position where there's an imbalance favoring Russia, which is another reason we shouldn't be picking these fights.
Yes, and this, just to take it back to everything, this is why we can't be in these wars and situations, is because the degradation of American power didn't just start under Trump or under Biden or under Obama. This has been going on for a very long time, and this is why the richest nation in the world, the most powerful nation in the world, we had hegemony. We don't have it anymore.
We don't anymore.
Think about losing that. How crazy is that? Break that down.
Well, look, and I keep bringing this up to people. I used to work at the National Interest. It's a great publication, wonderful people. It was Nixon's think tank that him and Kissinger created in the early 80s. And the Center for the National Interest, the publications of the National Interest. But anyway, in the pages of the National Interest in 1994, you had Jeane Kirkpatrick, the former UN ambassador under Reagan, who was very much a neocon. She wrote the essay Dictatorships and Democracies, but she sided with Pat Buchanan in 1994. She wrote A Normal Country in a Normal Time. And in that 4-page essay, she outlined in 1994 how we needed to basically bring the legions home, that we had no business anymore. The Cold War was over. We defeated communism. The threat was gone. That was a unique moment, she said, in our history. And now we needed to go back to what George Washington wanted. She was writing this in support of her colleague, Pat Buchanan, who was receiving at the time a lot of flack because he was saying these things. Now we're in a position again where we've completely broken the back of U.S. military hegemony, U.S. military power. we have to reassess the depleted arsenal, the depleted SPR, the depletion we're going through. All of this is a golden opportunity, Rex. We now can go back to what my new book coming out in November through Tucker Carlson Books is about. It's called Fortress Americas. We go back to Western Hemispheric defense. We go back to the ideas of the founding fathers, the new Monroe Doctrine. We don't get involved anymore in these, wars, on the periphery. We stop poking the Russians. The Russians get their part of the world. The Chinese get their part of the world. We get our part of the world. And we run this thing together.
And that's the great irony of this war against multipolarity from the West. It's really created multipolarity. I mean, you look at BRICS, look at CIPS, right? Biden weaponized SWIFT against the Russians and also froze a bunch of their assets. So they created an alternative system, right? Same thing with even Baidu, like the Chinese, like GPS. Right. So we've done gain of function research on a whole bunch of things we shouldn't have. I think that's kind of the takeaway of the past, decade or two. And I think more people are waking up to that, Brandon. I think you do excellent work. Plug your book, plug your website, plug your articles. Where can people find you?
Yeah, well, the newest book, like I said, it's coming out November 3rd or 10th, I think. And Skyhorse is Tucker Carlson is an imprint. It's Tucker Carlson Books. And it's called Fortress Americas, A New Monroe Doctrine. And it makes clear this is not an ode to imperialism. This is about trade and reinforcing our defensive perimeter. Then the other place you can find me is the Weichert Brief on Substack. And I am the co-host of the Mario Nawfal podcast.
Yes, and you're going to be on there today and tomorrow and later.
Yeah, in about 10 more minutes. Less than that, yeah.
But it's right there. We the Brandon. Follow him there. Also check out his work at 1945.com. Brandon, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Talk to you later.
Appreciate it. Wow, what a terrific guest. What a terrific hour. We just broke down and covered the waterfront, as my dad would say, of everything you wanted to know about Iran, Ukraine, our thoughts about the domestic political reality in the United States. This is why I love doing this show, is because I get to have these conversations with people and we all get to have it together where, the viewer, listener at home, I know you want to know these things just as bad as I do. So I want to give that to you. That's my 360 win for today. I'll see you for the War Room.
Fellow patriots.